Big Sills! Welcome aboard National Football Show with your boy Big Sills. Gotta say, man, hey, Philly. You know, I tried to think of some of the cities around America who's got bigger stars in it. Congratulations, Joel Embiid. MVP. Who is it now? Wilt, Malone, Dr. J, Iverson, and now Embiid. Quite a group to be a part of. Especially when you're talking about the big fellas that have played in Philly. Think of that. Think about the big fellas that have played in Philly. Maybe the most complete big man since Wilt. Wilt wasn't the greatest free throw shooter. Tony, got a little history for you. You know one of the reasons that they have a circle at the top of the key there in the free throw line? Because what the Dipper used to do is just run to the free throw line and then lay it in because he wasn't a very good free throw shooter. So because the Dipper was so dynamic in every other asset of his game, they put a circle around it, and you couldn't run to the top of the line there at the free throw line because Wilt Chamberlain used to take off running, and he used to just lay it in. And that's how he did his free throws. True story. And so you're talking about a guy, again, another guy, changed the way you do basketball. And that's quite okay? Hey, dude, how about that starting lineup, too? And if you want to put Sir Charles, I know he won it in Phoenix. Okay, you put Barkley in that group, that's a pretty good team, man. I'll tell you what, I'd take that team, Malone and Embiid and Wilt, Dr. J and Iverson. And then you put Barkley in there, man. I don't know, man. That's a pretty good group. Lakers probably have a better one. Maybe Celtics. I don't know, man. But that's a pretty impressive group. Congratulations to Joel Embiid. Actually been watching the playoffs. I watched that Golden State game last night. And I watched the Lakers. I tell you, man, good stuff. You're reeling me back in. You're reeling me back in because you know why? It's unpredictable. I like that in sports. Unpredictability. I always thought, hey, wake me up in June with the NBA playoffs. Now I'm doing this. Hey, man, pretty good. You're reeling me in. All right. I'm going to have my Philadelphia Eagles dream team here in a second. We got a ton of shit here, man. We're going to do our dream team. By the way, how many people believe Howie Roseman's the best general manager in the NFL? How many people believe he's the best GM in the NFL? How many people believe that? Colin goes, I do. See what Tone says here. You got to believe it at this point. Fair enough. How does Howie Roseman line up against other general managers in all of sports? Baseball, football, basketball, and NHL. How does he match up with all those guys? We're going to talk about that. My dream team. And guess what we're also going to do? Since we're just coming out of the draft, we're going to draft the starting 22 from the 22nd player to the first player. I think I got a couple more guys added on there. So we're going to draft the current team. Who would be the first pick, the 22nd pick, the 17th pick? We're going to do a little bit of that. First off, though, I want to take a shit on someone. Probably not a shocker here. By the way, John McMullen from Birds 365 will join us at the bottom of the hour. This Jonathan Gannon thing, man, I can't shake it. I think Jonathan Gannon may have hurt your chances of winning Super Bowl 57. How many people believe that? There's not a chance in hell this guy was 1,000% focused on that game where you had to be 100% focused to beat Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. Anytime you do illegal shit or you do shady shit, how could you be focused when you're angling? Anglers don't have 100% focus. This thing was so shitty, the owners had to deal with it and the commissioner. So are you telling me the Bidwells, Michael Bidwell, Jeffrey Lurie, and Commissioner Goodell had to deal with how bad this thing was? You know why they did that? So they could keep it in-house. They didn't want you knowing. By the way, I'm not suggesting in any way conversations don't go on in the bye weeks of playoffs. We all know that. But be transparent about it. Dude, you got a Super Bowl. You got a Super Bowl to worry about. Something that you can put on your resume for the rest of your life. Instead, Jonathan Gannon now, how many players were kind of like complaining about his approach? I know Gardner Johnson did. Other people were too a little bit. How shitty was his game plan, especially in the second half when he made no adjustments? I don't think Jonathan Gannon was prepared for that Super Bowl and what he had to face with Andy Reid. Andy Reid coached that guy's draws off him. Am I wrong when I say that? Am I wrong? Am I wrong where I'm calling here? Am I wrong with what I'm saying? Tone goes, call me emotional, but I definitely do. Can't tell me otherwise. You can't tell me otherwise. Hoss, when you got hey, take your own personal life, for instance. Take your own personal life. Say you got a pending bill that's out there, or you've got a situation that really impacts your family, and you got to think about going to work. How does that not affect your daily life and how you do things when you have a pending issue, something good or something bad that's waiting for you? How does that not affect your approach in what you do in life? I know some people can departmentalize it, but for me, there's not a chance that guy was 100% focused. Do you agree? Man, I'll tell you what, internally, the Philadelphia Eagles have to be one pissed off group of people. They got to be pissed off at that guy. And you know why you're pissed off too? You gave an unknown an opportunity to come into an organization and they trusted you. And you violated that trust. Finish the job, guy. You started something, finish the job. He didn't finish the job because he was out looking for another job. Not only was he not trustworthy, hey, no wonder, man. This guy's an excuse machine. He's an excuse machine. Hey, remember the first year? We didn't have the talent. So Howie went out and got him the talent. Couldn't stop the run. Howie went out and got him 2 D linemen and drafted Jordan Davis. And you kind of fixed it. I think that guy has train wreck all over him. I think he has train wreck all over him. I think he cost you an opportunity to win Super Bowl 57. When I knew I was getting the JAKIB gig, I stopped focusing on my last job. Granted, the job sucked, but it's natural. Absolutely. You knew that was hanging out there, right, Tone? It's human nature. Think how excited that guy was. Just think how excited he was that he was going to get one of the 32 cream jobs in the world, being the head football coach of an NFL team. What's more important to you, winning the Super Bowl or getting one of those dream jobs that give you generational wealth? Knowing the kind of money you were going to make, knowing the kind of power you were going to have, knowing the kind of autonomy you would have because you're the head coach, knowing that you're going to run your own ship and have your own castle and have your own moat. You think you're really focused on Super Bowl 57? Absolutely not. Jonathan Gannon, I will take to my grave, hurt your chances of winning the Super Bowl. Hey, that wasn't a Philadelphia Eagle offensive deal. Shane Steichen, I thought, put a great game plan together. Right? It wasn't the offense. It was the defense that let up. Gannon wasn't prepared for Andy Reid. And by the way, that was already going to be a monumental task. That was already going to be a monumental task for you to have to go out and try to outcoach Andy Reid, was it not? Instead, this guy's working with Arizona while he was trying to prepare. How many times have you watched head coaches that you know are leaving certain places and they coach in the bowl game and their team gets killed? You can't tell me that Gannon was 100% focused on Super Bowl 57. Not a freaking chance. That's right. Tease, he never adjusted. Because you know why? He was unprepared. That guy, boy, I'll tell you what, man. Next time the Eagles play Arizona, man, do I want a piece of that ass. I'm going to do everything in my power to embarrass that. Hey, I would say this to you too, man. Next time you line up against that Cardinal team, I'm going to do everything I can to take a shit on you and that organization who was tampering. Why are the Eagles getting hammered with this? What I don't get is, what's the Eagles' angle in this? He was under contract with the Philadelphia Eagles to be the defensive coordinator until the Super Bowl. And one of the rules is you can't take lateral moves. Okay, once the game's over, all bets are off and you can go and negotiate. Man. I don't know, man. Maybe you guys think I'm reaching on this one. But I think that guy, now knowing what I know in hindsight, at least give me this and agree with me on this. He wasn't prepared. The second half showed that. That guy was not prepared for Super Bowl 57. And he hurt your shot at winning it. And by the way, I'm not telling you he's Jim Johnson, but that makes it even more so to the point that he needed to be more focused. You're going against a Hall of Fame quarterback and a Hall of Fame head coach, and you're out dicking around with Arizona. Okay. You cost your team. Okay, remember, that's right, Cal. Remember when Fletcher Cox was doing this the first year he was the coordinator? I don't know what this guy's asking me to do. Remember when they were 2-5? He goes, I just don't know what they're doing. I have no idea what they're asking me to do here, man. Then they simplified it, made it a little bit easier for them to be able to understand the kind of scheme that they were trying to do. Remember Fletcher spoke up. You know, that's the one thing that's really cool. I got to tell you, man. Gannon Super Bowl waiting for left. That's right. He burned his relationship with the Eagles. That's not something you want to do, especially with an organization that's pumping out all these front office guys and head coaches. That's not something you want on your resume, that you took a shit in the last place that helped you get where you are. Burning bridges, especially in that league, with general managers and front office. Hey, how about the front office people that are eventually going to get GM jobs? They're going to remember that with Gannon. I'm not bringing that guy in. That guy's untrustworthy. That's right. Hey, remember this. When you take a head coaching job or an assistant job or any job, the day you'll be fired is out there. How you handle yourself on the way out the door is important as it is when you have the job. I learned that the hard way. Okay? I think Jonathan Gannon, man. I've never seen a guy get a job. You know, there's one thing about Sirianni's press conference. It was a little hokey, right? Nick's been great the whole time. Jumping on the park benches in Indianapolis and Arizona and all that shit. Kind of, you know, you're like this. All right. A little bit of too much of a high school coach and shit, but he's still good and the players like him and the front office really loves him. So it's all good. Love his daughter. So there's a part of me that makes me know that he's a genuine dude. So he's a genuine emotional guy. I'm good with it. He's a paisan. I get it. I understand it totally. I totally get it. Okay? He's a genuine dude. This guy here's a fraud, man. I don't trust that guy at all. I just don't. I can't wait to see how this thing plays itself out. All right. Dan, I agree with you. And I never agree with you. Thank you, Joseph. Joseph, I mean, he was not prepared. He was just not prepared. Dude, the Eagles played, and the players won in spite of him. That was more Howie Roseman building that defense than it was Jonathan Gannon's scheme. Is that fair? We're finding out now that Vic Fangio would have stayed. But with all the shenanigans that were going, hey, get this, there must have been some turmoil. Do we agree here? According to Adam Schefter, there must have been some turmoil after the Eagles found out that he was doing this during the Super Bowl. Can I tell you what I'm hearing? While Gannon was in the Super Bowl and at the Super Bowl week, he was meeting with Michael Bidwell in Phoenix. Now, that's a rumor. That's a rumor. But that's the word that he was having dinner with Michael Bidwell Super Bowl week. You think there's any coincidence to that? That the owners had to get involved? Dude, Howie didn't handle this. The commissioner of the NFL, Michael Bidwell, and Jeffrey Lurie handled this. Why do you think that is? Because they don't want any more emails going back and forth like they did with Daniel Snyder and Bruce Allen and other ways of running it down and having a paper trail. They wanted to keep it between the three parties. Greenblood, Gannon is an immature pud. Hey, so while your team is in Phoenix, and again, these are the rumors around this story. This story is not being really reported that much, especially in the Inquirer. Jonathan Gannon was meeting with the Arizona Cardinal owners and Michael Bidwell while he was preparing your team's Super Bowl week. Again, rumors. I want to underscore it. Rumors. But I don't think there's any coincidence that the owners and the commissioner were the only ones involved in rectifying this scenario. How many times have you seen an owner deal with tampering? Not really. It comes down to the GMs. It's an organizational thing. Man. Andy Reid is sitting there going, I got this guy. He knew it the whole time. Surely Kansas City knew what was going on because all these owners talk. Swansky goes, Dan, remember when CJ said he didn't put us in a position to win? I sure do. Dude, I'm sorry to tell you this. I didn't know how to open up the show with this. And again, I want to make sure we put this in parentheses. That all this stuff is not, you notice the NFL is glossing over it, and so is the Inquirer and everyone in the media. And Philly's kind of, you know who continues to bring it up is Rob on Sports Take. He rightfully so. This is a story. Super Bowl's in Arizona. Gannon gets accused of tampering. There's rumors that they were having meetings while he was game planning while he was game planning. People were coming over to the hotel, or he was going over to a hotel and meeting them. Just saying. I'm sorry. I think there's more to this. I think there's more to it. I don't think he was very prepared. Second half, he inflamed. Defensive backs running into one another, playing a completely different scheme. And once they started running the crossing routes in Super Bowl 57, I'm talking Kansas City. Once they started running those crossing routes, that defense fell apart in the second half. I mean, I don't know how you go and see this. Helen Keller could see what happened in the second half. Tell me I'm wrong. Now, look, Big Sills is a big conspiracy guy. I love that stuff. And I'm not going to tell you who told me, but he comes on the show all the time. Okay? He does. Just so happens he's traveling. It's the only reason he doesn't. And he can't right now. Word is that Gannon was meeting with the Cardinals Super Bowl week. Wow. More to come. I'm digging on this. Okay? AstroTurf. Who killed JFK? The mob. Dude, I'm telling you. That's not Bruce Arians. It's a media guy. Just telling you. Guy I trust, too. Actually, he goes on WIP all the time. The owners had to deal with it, and the commissioner, because they wanted to keep it in-house. I was told they wanted to keep it in-house because they didn't want a paper trail. See, that whole Daniel Snyder thing has made the NFL owners and general managers smarter now. Don't be rifling these emails that have inappropriate language or company business on it if you don't want it to get out. Every general manager and organization is under the Snyder Watch now. And the Snyder Watch is, do you know the one thing that Daniel Snyder did? Do you know what Daniel Snyder did that was brilliant? He don't own an email. Do you know that? Daniel Snyder doesn't own an email. Smart. He does not. Everyone else has an email. And he dictates to them. Snyder doesn't have an email address. He's never had one. That's why they don't have anything on him on paper. They got Bruce Allen. They've got other executives in the Washington organization on email. They don't have him on it. Dude, you know what's crazy about this? Look at what happened with that whole fiasco with with stealing signs in baseball. And look how many people got fired. Look at what happened. The Miami Dolphins lost the first round pick because of that whole shit that went on with Brady in New England. Look at that. How does this not go down that line here? Why Brady and the Dolphins were tampering with New England? How is this not tampering with Philadelphia? Why is Philly did Philly do something that was inappropriate? I'd like to know. I don't know that end of it. They tried hard to bury that story during the draft. They didn't want it stinking up the draft. Oh, I completely agree. They hired a coach during the Super Bowl buy-in week of the game. And he's meeting with them supposedly, and again, allegedly, at the front end of the week of game week. I didn't really know how to tell you. And I didn't know if you would think that it was a big deal. Big deal, no deal. Big deal, no deal. That's a story. It's about people that were doing things that didn't finish a job. Imagine if a player was under contract. Say Lamar Jackson was under contract. Or Joe Burrow right now says, you know what? Fuck the Bengals. I'm going to start talking to the Packers. You know? Or I'm just going to hedge my bets just in case Cincinnati doesn't want to pay me or they want to pick up my fifth-year option. Let me just start talking to Green Bay. What's the difference? What's the difference? Tell me what the difference is. Screw Cincinnati. They're going to pick up my fifth-year option anyway, because why? Alligator Arms Mike Brown, he ain't paying me. Big Sales, I got respect for you. You're a realist. Thank you, Joseph. You might imagine? Hey, I'm not going to talk. Justin Herbert. Hey, you know what, man? Rams are going to need a new quarterback. I really don't want to leave Los Angeles. Let me start talking to Stan Kroenke and Les Snead and Kevin Demoff. Don't worry about it. What the hell are contracts for? Imagine that. Unbelievable. Jonathan Gannon. What a snake. Hey, can I tell you this? No wonder he's talking shit on the Philadelphia organization and the fan base. No wonder. It's a story and says where his mind was Super Bowl week. Absolutely. He didn't give a shit about the game. He cared about his advancement. You understand? There's people in the media business exactly like that. They don't give a shit about the team. They only care about them and their show. See, when you're at a station, you're kind of on a team. Of course, you worry about yourself. You worry about your future. You worry about feeding your family. But you got to work with others. You know? You got to all row in the same direction. Imagine how Sirianni must have felt. You know how passionate he gets. Oh, he's probably so pissed off at this dude right now. Hey, that's right, Cal. Look at Urban Liar. Okay. Dumbo Fisher. All them dudes, man. Absolutely. Brian Kelly, the way he shit on Notre Dame and Cincinnati for that matter. Remember what he told the kids at the bowl game? At the Sugar Bowl? Hey, I'm taking the Notre Dame job. Good luck to you against Florida. Kids are all sitting here like this, put their ass on the line. We're recruited by this guy. He gave him a 10-second notice at the awards banquet in New Orleans. Brian Kelly walks in and goes, hey, guys, listen. Good luck to you in the Sugar Bowl. I'm taking the Notre Dame job. See you later. Have a good one. Kids are sitting here going, what? And Florida blew him out. You remember that? Florida blew him out after. It was Tebow's last college game, I think it was. Coaches lie. They always do, man. It's crazy. So before I bring John McMullen in here, one more time. This story here with Gannon talking to the Arizona Cardinals, there's now people saying that they were talking during Super Bowl week. And you would have to think just by the second half of the fact that you weren't prepared for Andy Reid's adjustments. Again, I'll throw this at you here. Again, people that I respect talking, and only 3 people were involved in the negotiations on how they handled this in-house because, once again, it's the Daniel Snyder factor. They don't want a paper trail in this on what went down with tampering. Remember what tampering cost the Miami Dolphins? They didn't have a pick this year in the first round because of that Brady and Stephen Ross deal. That thing got out. This has been kind of like a held-up story here a little bit. And now Gannon's throwing shots back at Phil. I'll tell you what, if I'm the Eagles, man, I'm like, man, we gave this guy every opportunity. And, you got the job, guy. Go away. Work on your own team. Look at the train wreck that Michael Bidwell has right now with former general managers and executives inside the organization. It has to be one of the worst run organizations in all of football. Players exodus. They don't want to play there anymore. I don't know. Let me bring John McMullen in on this. John, tell me what you know. And look, do I think it was the number one factor in why the Eagles lost Super Bowl 57? Absolutely not. But I don't know, just like anybody, it's human nature. When you have a great job that's waiting for you, there's not a chance in hell you're 100% focused on the task at hand. You're just not. And the way that this has been handled, the owner of the Eagles, the owner of the Cardinals, and the commissioner were the only three people involved in this. Can you add anything more to this?
Yeah, I don't believe that for a second, Dan. I mean, well, a number of things. One, I wish, this kind of stuff happens all the time. Now, what happened is the Cardinals have, for instance, you're saying, how can you not be distracted? Was Shane Steichen distracted? Nobody cares about Shane, right? I mean, Shane was leaving. Shane had the job in Indy. Shane interviewed after the NFC Championship game. But here's the difference. There's a, arcane rule in the NFL. There are certain windows you can interview potential head coaches for during the playoffs. After the NFC Championship game, the bye week, you can interview coaches in the Super Bowl, but only as a second interview. Only as a second interview. So Shane had already interviewed with Indianapolis. So Indianapolis was permitted to interview him again. Ultimately, he got the job. We all knew he had the job in going into the Super Bowl. Shane was fine. The year prior, Kevin O'Connell was fine. Kevin O'Connell had the Minnesota job. He was fine. This stuff happens all the time in the NFL, Dan. All the time.
But you don't get fined for tampering all the time. And I would say this to you, John. I agree. It happens all the time. Shane Steichen was not a play caller. Shane Steichen was a designer of an offense, of an RPO. When you have different responsibilities in your offense, because Jalen Hurts' decision-making, he's the play caller in game. They don't go like this, John. Hey, let's run a 37-8 route with a tail on it, with a turn-in. There's a different responsibility from a coordinator that runs an RPO to a guy who's preparing against Andy Reid, in my opinion.
Shane Steichen's one of the best play callers in the NFL.
How could an RPO be a play call when it's decision making in the moment and at the play? When you say hut, Jalen's got to make that decision. Whether to keep it, run it, throw it.
On an RPO or a zone read, the entire offense is not RPO zone read based. They have many play calls. Boy, you are really diminishing.
Boy, I disagree with you 100% on this one.
Shane Steichen was one of the best 5 play callers in the NFL last season. He was the Eagles play caller. And I'll say this, Dan, look at the Eagles offense with Nick Sirianni. Look at the Eagles offense with Shane Steichen. Shane was a better play caller than Nick Sirianni. They put the game in the hands
of Jalen Hurts.
Shane Steichen is one of the best play callers in this league. Ask anybody around the NFL. That's the reason he's a head coach in Indianapolis right now.
We will find that out.
However, the point I'm trying to make is this absurdity that coaches do not interview after the NFC Championship game and the Super Bowl is ridiculous. The reason why Arizona was hit for tampering is because Monty Ossenfort got the job on January 16th. He's a rookie GM. He did not evidently know you can only interview a coach from a Super Bowl team after the NFC Championship game or the AFC Championship game if you interviewed them prior. He did not interview them prior. So basically, Arizona didn't understand the legislation. They contacted Jonathan Gannon before they should have, and they got hit for it. But to me, that's in the weeds. That's the tampering aspect. What the tampering aspect has done is fuel these conspiracy theorists. It's much simpler than that. It's basically Jonathan didn't handle it well from a political standpoint. There's a way you do things. He did not handle it well. He did not explain it well. He did not speak about it well. I knew Jonathan Gannon was going to be the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals on Saturday before the Super Bowl. Let me ask you this. And by the way, I wasn't the only reporter who knew that.
And for the record too, John, I knew that the Eagles Super Bowl week had offered Frank Reich the offensive coordinating job for the Eagles. You know why? He said it on my show.
Well,
and that was before he was announced in Indianapolis as the head coach in Indianapolis. He came on this show and I asked him explicitly, have the Eagles reached out to you to be the offensive coordinator of the team? He said yes.
Well, Nick talks to Frank all the time. They're very, very close.
It was Howie.
But Nick, Nick texts Frank every day, every week during the regular season. I talked about it numerous times with him. He does it all the time. They're very close.
They are.
Now Frank got the job in Carolina.
That's the only reason he didn't take the OC job. Because he was going to come to John. He said it on the program. We interviewed him.
It would have been interesting because the Eagles were concerned about losing Brian Johnson.
By the way, I love you, John McMullen.
Yeah. They were concerned about losing Brian Johnson. Now, if you're asking me, Nick's closer to Kevin Patullo than Brian Johnson. Nick's very close.
I thought they were going to bring him in as the OC. I thought they were going to maybe get him, but probably Jalen. Would you agree Jalen probably had a lot to do with Brian?
Well, that's a big part of it too. You want to make the quarterback happy, and the quarterback's very close to Brian Johnson. But getting back to JG, to use the Eagles as an example. Now, a lot of people are saying Jonathan didn't tell the truth, which he didn't. Either to Kevin O'Connell, as I brought up, either to Shane. You don't talk about it. You don't talk about it until afterwards. There's sort of an unwritten rule. So you play this tap dance game. So the Eagles did the same thing, right? Howie said, well, we told Jonathan after the game that how did I know he was getting the head coaching job before then? You're telling me the Eagles didn't know that? And you could ask Jody Mack, my partner. I texted him from Phoenix. I said, Gannon's getting the Arizona job.
John, what's the angle where the Eagles are being penalized though? Why?
What happened? Penalized? The Eagles weren't penalized at all.
Oh, okay, yeah. Because what did they do? They swap picks?
Yeah, the Eagles went from the bottom of the third round to the top of the third round.
Okay.
Here's the deal with the Eagles.
So they were compensated, you think? Then?
Yes. Oh, the Eagles were compensated because the Arizona and Monty Ossenfort self-reported. I don't even know if I believe that, but he claimed he self-reported. Here's the deal with the Eagles. They have two assistant GMs. One of their assistant GMs is named John Ferrari. What is John Ferrari's background? He's a football compliance guy. He's a football ops guy. He's the guy who knows the rules backwards and forwards. I guarantee you, John Ferrari said, you know what? They screwed up here. And by the way, Howie's pissed off dating back to last year because everybody keeps pilfering his team. Last year it was Brandon Brown and Ian Cunningham before the draft. This year he's getting destroyed with all his coaches. He's pissed off that everybody's taken away from the Eagles. So he's like, they didn't do it the right way. Let's get something for it. And they got something for it. Turned out to be Sidney Brown. And we'll see how that works out. But as far as Jonathan Gannon, look, here's what I say to all these people. Criticize him for the game. If you need the scapegoat, use him as the scapegoat.
And his professionalism, John.
I'll say this. It's one of the most competitive people I've ever met. If someone says to me, it's a lifetime football guy, he's been coaching since his 20s, he's going to be coaching for a long time, hasn't won a Super Bowl. If you think for 1 second that he didn't want to win that game at all costs and get a Super Bowl ring, a lot of people have. I'm not saying you. A lot of people have said this. That's the part I won't even entertain. If you want to talk about he did a bad job, he did this, he did that, that's fine. Get off that he didn't want to win the game. He was distracted. That part of it's bullshit. Excuse my French.
Let's go on to this. You know what? It's been now 2 years me talking about Howie Roseman, and I gotta walk this back. John, this fucking guy is unbelievable. He is unbelievable. Between the contract, getting Slay to take $3.5 million less, getting the corners back, drafting a better player or prospect than Javon Hargrave and Carter. I mean, then getting a guy in Nolan Smith who you can put in the wide side who runs a 4.3. I mean, really the only question mark is, and then you have the best offensive line coach. And Jimmy Johnson said, my number one coach on my staff was Tony Weiss, my O-line coach. When you have that in the building, you win. Really, the only issue maybe is right guard. Do you agree with me on this, John? That they're in a better place right now than they were coming out of the 17th Super Bowl when they won it. Coming out of a loss of a Super Bowl, they're in a better place right now moving forward than they were then.
Offensively, they certainly are. I mean, if you go back to when Carson was hurt, they didn't have the playmakers like they have now with AJ and Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert. They've done enough in the running game with DeAndre Swift and Rashad Penny that you can sort of cobble it together, even, behind that offensive line. I mean, which is the best in football, as you mentioned. Defensively, though, I got a problem with the back seven. They did nothing at all ball linebacker. Think about they lost over 2,000 snaps at all ball linebacker with TJ Edwards and Kaiser White. Nakobe Dean's got a lot of potential, but he played 36 reps last year. That's it. And then they signed Nicholas Morrow. And by the way, I always say, not that contracts tell you everything, but he didn't get 1 cent of guaranteed money. That tells me a lot. Not 1 penny.
He's a dude.
They got to add there. And at safety, they lost Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. They lost Marcus Epps. Again, major reps. You're talking about an undrafted rookie from last year, Reed Blankenship. You're talking about Terrell Edmonds, who you paid $2 million. And you're talking about a rookie in Sidney Brown. I got some concerns on the back end of the defense. And on top of it, their defensive line on paper looks ridiculous. But you know what, Dan? I guarantee you right here, mark down the date, they're not getting 70 sacks.
Oh, no.
That ain't happening again.
Especially with the better teams they're playing and the better schedule this year, too. And better coordinators.
Better regression to the mean. I mean, it's just it ain't happening again. Even if they had Vic Fangio, even if they, it ain't happening. That kind of stuff is magical.
But John, listen to this, and here is my dream front seven for the Eagles if it all pans out: Brandon Graham, Jalen Carter, Fletcher Cox with Davis in rotation. Josh Sweat is on the other end. Nolan Smith goes to a will linebacker. Nakobe in the middle, and Hassan. And you have both these guys, Nolan Smith and Reddick, as weapons coming off the perimeter. And you have Josh Sweat and Graham setting the edges. To me, when I look at that front seven, and if, again, like you said, potential means you haven't done it yet. That's Nakobe Dean. I completely get it. Davis has a lot. We're going to talk about him here in a minute. But Reddick, Dean, Smith, Sweat, Cox, Carter, Brandon Graham. That's a pretty good-looking, talented front seven. If you're asking me, that's the best front seven in the NFC East for sure.
Oh, I think it's the best front in the NFL.
Absolutely. Even better than San Francisco's, John, I think.
Oh, yeah. They're much deeper talent-wise. But, I mean, Nolan Smith, no, I'm not putting him at linebacker. He's an edge rusher. That to me is similar.
You've got to rush him off the edges. And to me, you've got to play him like they play Reddick on the other side. Vic
calls them overhang players. That's whatever you want to call them.
Yes.
They're edge rushers. Nolan is, Hassan is. Arizona got caught up back in the day. Oh, Hassan's so athletic, we're going to make him an all-ball linebacker. No. Same thing with Micah Parsons in Dallas. Dallas got lucky. A bunch of guys got hurt because they were trying to make him an all-ball linebacker.
Dan Quinn didn't know what he had until he put him up.
Yeah. So, I don't want to mess with Nolan Smith. I'll tell you what Sean Desai might do a little bit differently, at least from watching Chicago film, is he, on obvious, unknown pass, he'll overload one side. So, he might put Reddick and Nolan Smith on the same side and try to create that stress that way. But you have, if you think about the edge guys, you have Reddick, you have Sweat, you have Brandon, and you have Nolan Smith. I mean, and then inside, you have Pletch, you have Jalen Carter now, you have Milton Williams, you have Jordan Davis, you have Marlon Tuipulotu, who's better than people think. You have Kentavious Street, who's, can play a little bit.
What's Milton Williams' role?
Well, unfortunately, he's not going to be able to play that much. I think Jalen Carter is the best player in the draft.
Yes.
I think he's got a chance to be a starter day one.
I compared him, John, to Jerome Brown, and I've not done that in my 27 years broadcasting, and I've never compared anybody to the player because of his feet, his hands, his so-called. Remember, he was a lazy guy at Miami, and Reggie made him a better practice player, and so did Seth. And so did Buddy. Once he got to Philadelphia, John, Jerome turned into a better worker than he was when he was at Miami. It's just human nature. You're killing everyone in college. When you get to the NFL, you got to be prepared because everyone's great. So I mean,
and that's the thing about Carter. Look, he's had the issues. We all know the issues. But I mean, he's not, Al Capone. He's immature. he's a 21. He's not out there robbing liquor stores and, being tax evade. He's not a criminal. He's made some mistakes. I've gotten to meet him. He seems like a good kid. Everybody says he's a good kid. By the way, Nolan Smith and Calais Ringo. I don't know what they're doing.
I was impressed with Nolan Smith at the press conference.
They are leaders. They are. So it's really impressive what Kirby Smart has been doing down there. But you brought up Howie. I'll just say that. I know. Howie has done a great job. Don't get me wrong. But part of it is Jeffrey Lurie, in that Howie gets to do stuff like other people can't do. Like, I'm sitting there going at 9 Chicago. Ryan Poles can't take Jalen Carter. He can't do it because he's got no gravitas. He tore that team down. If he makes one mistake, he's going to lose his job. You even go to Brad Holmes in Detroit as a third-year guy. He can't do certain things. These young guys,
so much equity up, John.
Yeah.
with Jeffrey that
So
it was on
think
display
about
in this draft.
so think about draft weekend. I brought up polls. Okay. Chicago should have took Jalen Carter. But
Seattle
how
too.
Seattle, John Snyder's more entrenched, so that he can make decisions. But then we talked about Monty Ossenfort making the mistake, the tampering penalty. It's a rookie GM. Brad Holmes in his third year. What do? You sign David Montgomery in free agency. You draft the kid at running back at number 12 overall. You're basically signaling we can't keep DeAndre Swift, and Howie gets him for a song and a dance.
Unbelievable.
Young GMs, inexperienced, making mistakes, and he takes advantage of it.
I almost fell off my chair when I heard the DeAndre Swift move. And then when I heard what the compensation was, I was like this. He's not Christian McCaffrey, but he's kind of like him because that's the guy they want in the backfield. And John, I like that player. And I was impressed with him in that Detroit game last year. I mean,
that was his best game he ever played. So everybody
but to me, I was just taken by how well he's done. Not just that, then the constructing of the contract with Jalen, they front-ended it instead of back-ending it. And you see what the cap hits are, and you're like, holy shit, traditionally 99% of the general managers put their team in financial ruin by signing these. The stroke of being able to do that, I mean, John, do you think this is his best offseason that he's had as general manager? Because there was a lot of work to do.
Last year was pretty good.
Yeah, but there was more work. See, last year, John, they were able to because Jalen didn't have that contract that's going to hit the team at 24. And you got veterans, and you had a lot of veteran dudes. But to me, this year, what they did was obviously not the same experience that they bring in. However, they're cheaper, and they're more athletic, and they're younger. With some of the players that they're now bringing in.
Well, definitely. But, the projection part, you have to do that. You have to shift gears. Now, Jalen Carter's got to be a player. I think he's going to be a player. Nolan Smith, Sidney Brown. Last year, remember, Cam Jurgens didn't play. N'Kobe Dean didn't play. They have to be players. So it's more projection this year. Javon Hargrave, you mentioned, really good player. We knew that. Isaac Seumalo, really good player.
Really good.
CJ Gardner-Johnson, really good player. Marcus Epps was, solid player. I'm not going to go overboard. TJ Edwards had a great year. Kaiser White, solid player. That's a lot of, as I was saying, reps you have to replace. And look, Jalen Carter's got more talent than Javon Hargrave. Jim Schwartz used to call it startup costs with young players. You have startup costs. They're going to have startup costs. As talented as they are, you got to get over that hump.
Absolutely. Two last questions for you. John, you've been around them, and I've only heard about them. Give me your sense of Sean Desai. What have you?
I haven't been around him.
Well, you haven't
been around. The Eagles haven't introduced Sean Desai. It's funny. We were joking about that today.
Huh.
We got to talk to DeAndre Swift and Olamide Zaccheaus today. And I was joking with some of the Eagles PR people. I said, can you confirm Sean Desai is a real person? Because we haven't gotten – we're going to be able to talk to him soon, whether they're having rookie camp on Friday or OTAs, which start in late May. But, because the Eagles had such a long season because they were in the Super Bowl, they hired him late. Then they went into draft mode, so they kind of used that as an excuse. We haven't talked to him yet.
Pretty weird a little bit, huh?
Oh, very weird. Very weird.
Do you think they're still deciding, John, on what defense they're going to run? Because to me,
No.
Absolutely they don't have the linebackers to play at 34.
Absolutely not. I mean, well, nobody plays at 34. I mean, everybody's in nickel today.
Everyone's in nickel. 72% of the defensive snaps are nickel. Correct.
He's closer. you know, he's a closer Big Fangio guy than Gannon was. I mean, Sean was a first, first removed disciple. Sean
Was he in
worked.
Chicago?
Yes, Sean worked under Vic for years. No, they're running the same scheme. Nick has said that. We've talked to Nick a bunch. They're running the same defensive scheme. Now, I brought it up with Shane and Nick. They ran the same offensive scheme, but it's a little bit different. When you have a guy in the moment, he's going to be a little bit different. So he might do something different on 3rd and 13 than JG would have done. But the same basic philosophy, the Big Fangio defense, that's what they're running. That's what they're running. And that's why they probably would have hired Vic himself if Jonathan got the Houston job. But by the way, Adam Schefter got the calendar wrong. Vic took the Miami job on January 29th, which, if that's familiar for Eagles fans, that was the day of the NFC Championship game.
Yeah.
So in other words, if the tampering didn't happen, if they just fired Jonathan Gannon, whatever you want to speculate, they couldn't have gotten Nick Sirianni. He already agreed to go to Miami, and Nick's not going to Josh McDaniels the Dolphins. He's not that guy. So that was already done. So that part of it had to do with the Houston job. If Jonathan would have gotten the Houston job, and a lot of people thought he was going to get that job, then Vic Fangio would have been in play for the Eagles.
Finally, John, Jordan Davis. How would you be feeling right now if the Eagles gave a 33-year-old D tackle $10 million and they just went back into the draft, second year in a row, and grabbed another D tackle? And my opinion is this. You tell me if I'm wrong. I think that I like the player. He's not a bust. I hate when people are saying that. I think he was overdrafted. I thought he was more down in the 20s. He's not going to be Fletcher Cox. That's not who he is. I thought he was going to be more Vince Wilfork. Somebody like that. Vince has 3 rings and a major part of winning Super Bowls in New England. So that's not a bad rip. I love Vince. However, I think they look at him like this. Hey, man, we really like you, but we'd like you to pick your game up a little more. Is that fair, John?
Yeah, I think the problem with Jordan is, one, he didn't play a lot at Georgia because Georgia's so talented. They would come at you in waves, and, he didn't play a lot of reps. So I think conditioning was a big part of it. And then he got hurt. He was actually coming on before he got hurt, if you remember. And then he missed about a month with a high ankle sprain. And then by that point, Marlon Tuipulotu also got hurt. I think people forget that. So the Eagles were down to Marvin Wilson. That's when they had to go out and get Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh, but it was more in relation to Jordan Davis. It was more Linval. And by that point, the Eagles were a significant Super Bowl contender. Linval knows how to play.
He does.
Understands the role. And they were like, you know what? Let's make a run to the Super Bowl. Let's go with the veteran guy. And, Jordan still played in a rotation, but that was their thought process. Not that he was a bad player. Let's just go with the veteran and try to get over the hump. It's interesting. He was the 13th pick in the draft, and he's a 2-down player. So, we talked about the Fangio scheme. Well, what you have is the variable front. So you got the 5-man front, the 4-man front. You need that zero technique, that nose tackle, and that's what Jordan Davis is. Here's the thing, and you can see that. Hassan Reddick, 235. Nolan Smith, 235. Nakobe Dean, they list him at 220. He ain't 220. Nicholas Morrow, 218.
Small dudes.
Small. It's basically, you know what, Jordan Davis, go tie up a bunch of blockers. So it's not a sexy role. And I think I said this at the time when they drafted him. I think it's a little bit too esoteric for people to understand. But if he does his role, it's not going to be a lot of sacks, not even going to be a lot of tackles. But if he keeps blockers off TJ Edwards at the time and Kaiser White, it's going to be worth it. Now it's Nakobe Dean and Nicholas Morrow or whomever. If he's able to keep blockers off those linebackers, he's worth it. If he can't, he's not.
John, here again, and it's a great explanation, and I try to explain that as well, that he affects play action if you stop the run. And the quarterbacks that they're going to play this year, John, you take play action away from Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes, and you've made them one-dimensional. That's the impact he's going to have for Reddick, for Nolan Smith, for Josh Sweat, for Brandon Graham, and for the pass rushers. That's what I thought last year Sue and Linville brought, is that's what elevated the game of Reddick, was because they went from what was the number, 23 against the rush to about 15, 16 against the run. They improved it, and he exploded with that. If they're able to get that number higher, I'm not saying that I agree with you. John, they're not going to even approach 70. If they're in the 50s, that'll be a great year. If they're in the 50s.
I expect him to be in the 50s, but
what's that?
I expect him to be in the 50s, but
you're around 55. John, that's a really good ball season for your guys.
Oh yeah.
If you're 55,
guess what? There. Number 1 in the NFL last year was, I think 55 was number 2. I believe 55 was number 2. So, yeah, I mean, look, the Eagles' whole defense, like most defenses, but the Fangio defense is built to get the 3rd and long and then pin the ears back. And that's where Khalil Mack, if you go back to Chicago, and Akeem Hicks and Robert Quinn, and those guys went nuts. Same thing here. Known pass, you got a lot of issues if Hassan Reddick and Josh Sweat and Brandon Graham are coming at you.
This has got to be one of my favorite interviews in 2 years I've been on this network. This is my favorite kind of interview. Back and forth, ping pong in that bitch, hitting a little couple arm wrestling match. I love it.
I'm not going to beat you in arm wrestling.
Hey, don't forget, folks, Birds 365 in the morning. Absolutely spectacular job. Those guys do a super job each and every single day. John's work, too, also on JAKIB Sports. Make sure you go check it out. I do every single day to learn more and more about your Birds and the NFL. John, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it, brother.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it.
You got it. John McMullen, don't forget, check him out over on Birds 365 in the morning and also over at JAKIB Sports. Please hit the like button. Hour number 2. What do you think? We just sit around here ass kissing the people? What do you think Big Sills does here? How you doing? I agree to disagree. No, you're crazy. Boom. Hour number 2. Keep it here on the National Football Show.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
And the big story on Action News?
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Go passionately. Go fearlessly. Go confidently.
Go Birds!
Go confidently towards your goals with First Trust, Philly's hometown bank for nearly 90 years and the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're focused on getting you over the goal line. So go with conviction, go with trust, and go forward with us by your side. First Trust Bank, the official bank of Philadelphia Dreams. Oh, and go Birds.
All right, did you know I was the mommy slam dunk champion?
Really?
Yes, really don't sound so surprised.
Let's see it.
Oh, you're ready. All right, here we go. Let's hear the crowd. So go to right, I go to left, fake a mom. Mama, go up, mama!
She did it.
Again?
You can't avoid gravity, but United Healthcare can help you avoid financial surprises by helping you compare costs and doctor quality ratings. United Healthcare.
Uh-huh.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Big Sills! Hour number 2. Love that interview with John McMullen. Thank you, John, so much for coming aboard. We really appreciate it. By the way, got a ton of stuff yet. The Big Sills best general managers in all sports are going to happen here in a minute. Tone goes like this: that John McMullen interview was compelling. Yeah, because I completely disagree with John. I think the guy was distracted, and I don't care what anyone says. I think he was distracted. And personally, the rumors and conversations that he was out there meeting with Cardinal people. And by the way, I don't give a shit about other teams. I give a shit that guy didn't finish a job. And I believe that. Okay? And I do believe that. It's all good. Hey, nobody wants to get people on their programs that completely agree with them all the time. That's for radio. Remember something. Most people and most hosts put people on so that they can drive their narrative home. That's not what I do. I've never done that. As a matter of fact, those are kind of my favorite interviews. People that disagree with me. Okay? Okay, that to me is what's compelling content. Sitting around going, yeah, what do you think? Yeah. I mean, nobody cares. Nobody wants to hear that shit. They want to hear people having different opinions. And that's what we do here. Hey, real quick, before we move on here, I do want to throw this out to Antonio Brown. So Antonio Brown says he's going to be a Baltimore Raven. I'd like to know when that press conference is happening. Besides the one where he's bankrupt his Arena Football League team. This guy lives in a fantasy league that doesn't exist. Or maybe it only exists in his head. What a tragic ending to a great football player. There's a guy right there that doesn't know reality. This thing is going to end in the graveyard. It only can end one place. Or two, jail or the graveyard. This is not ending anywhere else. This is not ending. Did anybody think once he took his jersey off versus the Jets when he was with the Bucs, this was going to end any other way? Nobody was thinking that this was going to. And by the way, feeling sorry for a guy that's self-imploding, I know many people have empathy, and you do have empathy. But you have empathy for people that make mistakes. You have empathy for people that make mistakes. You don't have empathy for people that continue the same mistake over and 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 over, because your empathy goes nowhere and no one cares. I'm not changing who I am. A guy like Antonio Brown is a dirtbag. He'll always be a dirtbag, whether I give him empathy or not. I could care less. He's old news. But now he's infecting guys not getting their money and players that are holding on with one last string of their football dreams. And it sucks. He's now taking his bullshit into their room. That's really shitty. It's a selfish thing. That's the last time I'm bringing Antonio Brown up on my program. Or maybe one last time. I believe there'll probably be a last time that I'll be bringing him up. But quite frankly, just another ship sailing in the night. And that's the Titanic. It's the Titanic. And this one sinks too. This one's called the AB-84 boat. This one's sinking too in the North Atlantic. Whatever. Old news. How good do you think your general manager is? How good do you think Howie Roseman is compared to some of the great general managers that are in sports today? How good? Thanks, Seals, for putting John. I didn't know if I put John in his place. John had a different opinion. He schooled him. This is why we come back. Thank you very much, Jameson. I appreciate that, but I respect John's opinion. I do. I just don't agree with it. How good is Howie when it comes to the other general managers? I gotta take a guy off here. And I'm gonna put a guy down here. And I'm gonna take this guy off because I forgot about a guy. And you have him, and he doesn't get enough love. But I'm going to give you my 10 best general managers in all sports. Major League Baseball, NHL, NBA, and NFL. And I'll show you where Howie sits. Number 10, I got Dave Dombrowski. I know Dave from his time with the Florida Marlins and when he was with the Detroit Tigers. You talk about a general manager in Dave Dombrowski that understands talent. Look at what he did down in South Florida with Larry Beinfest when they put that team together with one of the shittiest owners in all of sports, the art collector, who I can't say his name, who stole the Orange Bowl away from the city of Miami. This guy brought in Miguel Cabrera. This guy had Josh Beckett. This guy did all those things with Larry Beinfest on there. He is one of the absolutely greatest general managers in evaluating talent and building minor league systems I've ever been around. I'm telling you, man, Dave Dombrowski's a hell of a general manager. I have massive respect for him. Number 9, Andrew Friedman. Andrew Friedman and what he did when he was with the Tampa Bay Rays and how they've put that in place now to where that organization has a blueprint on how to win 90 games, 95 games every year in the American League East, where teams spend over $200 million, is unbelievable. Now he's the general manager of the Dodgers, and he's got an open checkbook. He's won a championship. I know him very well. Love him. He's an architect at putting teams together. Now he's got a checkbook that he has unlimited resources to. Dave Dombrowski is one of the absolute best general managers in all sports. I got John Schneider at number 7 here, Seattle Seahawks. I think John Schneider has built that team back up again. You heard John and I talking about him with the equity. Fantastic. Fantastic. John Schneider. Number 6, Milwaukee Bucks, John Horst. Look at what they've done. They're winning championships. I know they got knocked out, but there's another one of the best general managers. Here are your top 5 GMs in all of American sports. Number 5 is Howie Roseman. Tremendous job at retooling his team with 3 different head coaches, 3 different quarterbacks. Free agency is ridiculously done right. The structuring of the contract for Jalen Hurts has been special. Howie Roseman is the 5th best general manager in all of American sports. You can't put him ahead of Brett Veach. Look at the job that Brett Veach has done in Kansas City. Howie's not done a better job than Brett Veach. The drafting of Mahomes. The 5 consecutive AFC championships, the 2 Super Bowls in 5 years. The record speaks for itself. If Howie had won that Super Bowl, I'd probably put Howie ahead of Brett Veach. Winning the championships has to matter. Has to matter. GG has to matter, right? I mean, Veach has won 2 Super Bowls in 5 years. Got to be ahead of Howie. Number 3, Peter Bendix, Tampa Bay Rays. How do you compete with a $60 million payroll against $250 million payrolls every year, and you beat the Yankees and Red Sox and Blue Jays every year? It's unfreaking believable. Howie has the resources to do his business. So does Brett Veach. The Rays don't. Those guys are constantly in the playoffs. They're constantly in the American League Championship. I don't know how the Rays do it. And I covered that team for 11 years. And they hang around a $60 million payroll. Do you know at one time the left side of the New York Yankees, when they had Jeter and A-Rod, constituted the balance of the entire payroll of the Yankees, or of the Rays, and they beat them to get to the ALCS. Incredible. Number 2, Julian Breezewa, Tampa Bay Lightning. Back-to-back championships. Almost went for a 3-peat. My opinion, Breezewa is one of the absolutely greatest general managers the NHL and all of professional sports has in it today. Julian Breezewa has built a dynasty. I know they got knocked out, but they've won championships. They went for a repeat last year, or 3-peat, excuse me. Tremendous general manager. And the number 1 GM in American sports right now, who do you think that is? If you had to put a name on it, who is the best general manager in all of American sports, would you say? I like the 5. Howie Roseman, Brett Veach, Peter Bendix from the Rays, Julian Breezewa from the Lightning. Who do you think is number 1? Who would you put? There you go, Dion. Congratulations to you, Bob Myers. Love Bob Myers. By the way, Rick Barry's going to be on to talk about Joel Embiid tomorrow. One of the top 15 players in the history of the NBA. Bob Myers is the best general manager. Why? He's got 4 titles. He drafted Steph Curry. You know, they were constantly telling him, you know the story Bob Myers said on my radio show? When I was doing radio, I had Bob Myers on my show. And do you guys know that they were thinking of trading him at the beginning of his career? Guess who told him not to trade? And Bob Myers was listening to everyone in the organization. There was one guy in the organization that told Bob Myers not to trade him. Do you know who that is? Eddie. The only general manager that has been more accomplished over the last 5 years has been Brett Veach. So it's not personal. He's just winning more titles right now. And if the Eagles had one, I'd have put him ahead of him. Guess who Bob Myers said, don't trade this kid? Is it Rick Barry, Jerry West, or Mark Jackson? No. Oh, wait. Yes, it's one of them. Jerry West, who was a consultant in the building, after the Lakers had thrown him away, and Jeannie Buss's stupid-ass son, or brother was running the team, they threw him out. Bob Myers hired him. Look at how great of a general manager Jerry West has been. He built Memphis. He was a consultant to the Golden State Warrior dynasty. He built the Laker dynasty. He's the logo, for God's sake. He told Bob Myers, don't trade this kid. And what they did in return, they kept the greatest perimeter shooter in the history of the NBA. Okay? Jerry West told Bob Myers, don't trade this guy. He goes, everyone in the organization wants us to trade Steph Curry. He's like, I'm telling you, man, this guy's the best shooter there is. Those are your 5 best GMs in American sports, in my opinion. Howie Roseman at 5. Brett Veach, Kansas City Chiefs, 4. Peter Bendix, Tampa Bay Rays. I don't know how they do it with the money they don't have. Julian Brisebois, the Lightning, and Bob Myers. Imagine that. Howie is considered one of the greatest team executives in American sports. Think of all the teams. He's 5th. And this year, if they win it, he could be 4th. Again, Bob Myers got 4 titles, guys. They got 4 titles. Brisebois got 2 championships. I mean, and what the Rays do, I don't know how they do it. It's the only reason they're ahead of them 2 guys. They do it with no money and win. It's incredible. Incredible. I think Pat Riley's a good general manager too. I think Pat's done a great job at building that team a couple times. The Shaq championship, obviously. He turned around with the LeBron titles. What Pat told me, what was really great. By the way, my Eagle Dream Team is coming next. Here, my Eagle Dream Team is coming. We're going to put an Eagle Dream Team with the guys they have on the roster right now. We're going to do that here in a minute. Let me put it to you this way. So Pat Riley, I go, how'd you get LeBron to come and play in Miami? He goes, I took out a satchel and I poured my 10 championship rings on the table. And he goes like this, why don't you try one on? LeBron's sitting across his desk. He goes, why don't you try one on? Grabs the 85 one. He goes, oh yeah. Boston Celtics beat him in game. Oh no, it was the 85 one. Yeah, beat him in game 7 in Boston. The only time Celtics had ever been beaten in the final, game 7. That's a great memory. You want one? You want a memory like that? You come play here. I'll show you how to win a championship. And get this, you got to remember, they took a film dude from the film room in Eric Spoelstra. And Eric Spoelstra is one of the greatest coaches in the NBA today. He was Eric Spoelstra told me when I was doing radio in Miami, he goes like this. I was in the film. I broke film down. Pat Riley goes like this. I want you to be our coach. Spoelstra turned out to be a crazy great coach. Dude, that's a right tone. Spoelstra, he was the guy cutting up fast breaks, guy pick and rolls. And Riley walks in, told me the story, walks into his room and goes, you're our new head coach. I think they fired Stan Van Gundy. I forget who they fired. And he goes like this, you're our coach. What? That's how it went down. There's Pat Riley, man. He's a G. Dude. He's a G. Pat Riley, man. He's fun to be around. He walks into my studio and he goes, we got something in common. We were Cowboys. It's like, when were you a Cowboy? Look it up, son. I was drafted by the Dallas Cowboys. I'm like, wait a minute. You were drafted by the Cowboys? He goes, yeah, out of Kentucky. Look it up. Sure enough, man, I called him. I go, you are a Cowboy. I never knew that he was a Cowboy. Yeah, Gil Brandt drafted him. Gil Brandt drafted him as a Cowboy. I was like, I had no idea, dude, that Pat Riley was drafted by the Dallas Cowboys. I had no idea. All right. Fun story, huh? Hey, I guess when you run around a couple things, man, and you're doing it long enough, right? Here is the Big Sil's dream team who I'd like to see on opening day for the Philadelphia Eagles. This is the roster I'm hoping that they start the season with. Let's go offense because it's pretty academic, isn't it? Hurts. DeAndre Swift, running back. A.J. Brown. Devontae Smith, your wideouts. Quez in the 3-hole. Dallas Goedert. Dude, this sounds like an all-pro team. Your tight end. Jordan Mailata, who I expect will be a Pro Bowler this year. Dream team makes me cringe. GG, not this one. Not this one. Landon Dickerson, who I think, do you understand that I think that 4 of the 5 guys that are in your O-line could probably be Pro Bowlers this year? Mailata, Dickerson, Kelsey, Juergens, Lane. Here, Lane, Pro Bowl. Kelsey, Pro Bowl. Dickerson, Pro Bowl. Mailata, Pro Bowl. Goddard, Pro Bowl. Devontae Smith, Pro Bowl. AJ, Pro Bowl. Hurts, Pro Bowl. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 80 year 11 have a chance to be Pro Bowlers. And Swift maybe too, playing behind that line. You may have 9 guys out of year 11 in offense going to the Pro Bowl this year. Okay. Yeah. That's a pretty good-looking group. Now, here is my defense dream team. Okay? Whole line could be Pro Bowlers. Well, dude, this guy Juergens. So look at what Cam Juergens has. Who's coaching me? Well, the O-line coach in the NFL. Okay? Who's on my right side? Hall of Famer in Lane Johnson. Who's on my left side? Hall of Famer in Kelsey. I think my shot of being a Pro Bowler, I think it's pretty good. I mean, how many times do you play on each side of you Hall of Fame players? And guys that are really good still, not guys that are out of their – Hey, by the way, before I get to the defensive side, Kelsey's, the 2 brothers doing their podcast. I love what Jason Kelsey said about Jalen Carter. I love it. He's like, that's the kind of kid you gamble on. That's the kind of kid you take a shot at. That kid's got too much talent not to take a chance on. Perfectly said, perfectly done. He liked him when they brought him up for one of the 30 dudes in the interview, and he liked him when he saw him once he became an Eagle. And he said, you know what I took away from it? He never thought he was better than anybody. He seemed like a humble kid, and he seemed like a guy who wanted to just come in and be a part of a group. Dude, that's my kind of dude. I love that. You won me over. And you know why you won me over? Because one of the leaders in your locker room have been won over. Jason Kelce, unless Jalen Carter does some dumb shit, has won Jason Kelce over already. He's won Jason Kelce. Listen to his podcast too. Kelce tells you he's basically won him over. Holy shit, do you know how hard that is to win over a veteran guy like that? When you walk into a room, those guys look at rookies and those guys look at people that have not been part of the group as outcasts. You got a lot to prove, son, before you get respect from anybody. And when I heard Jason Kelce saying that, and I heard Jason Kelce talking like that, that was a great thing, man. That was a super thing. Great. Hey, Peter, what's up with I got to tell you Jamie Foxx. I'll tell you Jamie Foxx story after we do. Remind me, guys, I want to do the Jamie Foxx story on any given Sunday. I think I told some of you the story. Big Sills was kind of like a stunt dummy in that thing. You know, they filmed it at the Orange Bowl, right? I'll get to it here in a minute. I'll get to it, I promise. Let me know if he's okay, okay? Here is my dream defensive football team. Okay? Joe, that's right. Make the playoffs to that prediction. Don't let them off the hook. Joe, as you see, what Joe doesn't tell you is the whole truth. I said as of, go back and watch the clip. 3-13-23. The Eagles will not make the playoffs. Don't let Joe off the hook for telling you half the story. Make sure Joe tells you the entire story. Because as of that date, you were not. As of that date, you were not. Yes, and I'll still stick to that. Here's my defense. Brandon Graham, left defensive end. Jalen Carter, left DT. Right DT, Fletcher Cox. Left defensive end, Josh Sweat. That's pretty, with Jordan Davis in rotation. Dude, that's a pretty damn good-looking front four. That's a pretty good-looking front four. Linebackers, Nolan Smith. I'm putting him at will. Nakobe Dean, MLB. Hassan Reddick, strong LB. So your front seven is Reddick, Dean, Smith, Sweat, Fletcher Cox, Jalen Carter, Brandon Graham. How you feeling about that? How you feel about that front seven? 6, 7. NFL should open the season with Eagles, Chiefs. They actually should open it up with Eagles and Jets, but the Chiefs have to have it. You know what I mean? Because they're the winners. I get it. Okay? How about you feeling about that front seven? Hassan Reddick, Nakobe Dean, Nolan Smith, Josh Sweat, Fletcher Cox, Jalen Carter, Brandon Graham. How you feeling about that? Okay? Backfield. James Bradbury. Now, this is my dream team. Terrell Edmonds, strong safety. Free safety, Sidney Brown. Can I tell you what Sidney and who Sidney Brown reminds me of? He reminds me of that Colt dude, Bob Sanders. He reminds me of Bob Sanders. You got Bob Sanders rolling around out there in your secondary? That's a tone setter. Then you got Darius Slay at the other corner. So let me just go like this to you. Bob Sanders is one of your safeties. Darius Slay and James Bradbury are your corners. Let's see, maybe they put Ringo in at the other side. Okay? Love Lewis Oliver. Lewis Oliver, dear friend. I know, he's a Gator. Then again, hey, I told you, I'm getting over the fact that Howie's a Gator. Howie, I know you watched the show. Sorry, dude. Maybe my animosity towards you started there because you're a Gator. And, I mean, Hurricanes and Gators, dude. At the end of the day, you're a GM now, so you've kind of gotten over it, and I still haven't. So what's really suck-ass about everything here, I have more Gator friends now than I've ever had in my life, and I totally hate it. When I played, I had no Gator friends. Now Lomas Brown and Crawford Kerr and Lorenzo Hampton, Neal, David Williams, all these guys, man. Wilbur Marshall. I'll tell you a quick Wilbur Marshall story. So we're playing them up there at Florida. Man, best team money could buy. They had this thing called the Bull Gator. I don't know, maybe Howie donates to it. It's called the Bull Gator Group. He knows what I'm doing. Howie, you know what I'm talking about here. I know you watch the show. Howie, Bull Gator, you know what Bull Gator is, okay? It's everybody donating to the Gator program. I'm very sure Howie's part of the Bull Gators. Somebody should ask him if he's a Bull Gator. Guarantee you, Howie Roseman's a Bull Gator. Okay? So Wilbur Marshall just tears Alonzo Highsmith up, who turned out to be the third pick in the draft. And everyone goes like this to him when he walks off the field. Yeah, you'll like this. And, you know, you could see Wilbur talking to him. Everyone's like, what'd he say to you? Well, Wilbur said he was going to kill me. We all went like this. Well, what'd you say to him? He goes, I told him I believed him. Oh, man. Man, Wilbur put the fear of God in you, man. He put the fear of God in you. Wilbur Marshall, dude. Okay? Wilbur Marshall put the fear of Jesus Christ in you, man. A Bull Gator, GG, is a guy who's a big donor and supporter of the Florida football program. And I guarantee you, if anybody in the Philly media, when Howie, next time he's in front of a mic, goes, hey, by the way, are you a Bull Gator down with the Gators? I'd love somebody to ask that because that means he gives money. You're not a Bull Gator unless you give money. That thing's one of the richest. I don't know what Bama's is called. I know what Clemson's. It's called IPTAY. So I pay $30 a year. You could pay $30, $30,000, $300. Yeah, it's that Clemson has one of those. Okay? Maybe John McMullen can ask Howie Roseman if he's a Bull Gator. John, don't, man. Don't. You may get your key fob taken from you. Don't ask him if he's a Bull Gator, man. Because that's kind of like a secret. That's kind of like a secret organization. That's what got Charlie Pell fired, because the Bull Gator guys were paying all them guys to go to Florida and play. You don't think there's a coincidence that Lorenzo Hampton and all them guys who were up there playing running back were all first-round draft choices? How do you think they got there? Well, because they like playing at Florida. What is it, Lorenzo Neal, The guy that played in Chicago who took over for Walter Payton was a first rounder too. They had 3 1s playing running back, running downhill at us. They had Wilbur Marshall on the other side. How do you think all those guys got to Florida? Oh, because they wanted to be Gators. Sure. Howie's a bull Gator. I know he is. By the way, we're going to draft every single one of the starting 22. Who would be the number 1 overall selection by you if you had to draft the Eagles? We're going to do that here in a second. So what do you make of my team? Anderson, that's right, was Anderson. I played against him when he was in Chicago with the Bears. Neil Anderson. Lorenzo Hampton. There was another guy up there too that was in that backfield, that Florida backfield. They were all 3 1s. They all went in the first round. Really psychotic. Hey, here's my starting team. Hurts, DeAndre Smith, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Quez, Dallas Goedert, Mulata, Dickerson, Kelsey, Cam Jurgens, Lane Johnson on offense. Brandon Graham, Jalen Carter, Fletcher Cox, Josh Sweat, Nolan Smith, Nakobe Dean, Hassan Reddick, James Bradbury, Terrell Edmonds, Sidney Brown, Darius Slay. Dude, that's a hell of a football team. That's a hell of a football team. Or how about this? Let's be fair about this team, okay? It lacks experience. It's got a lot of talent, and you're younger. You're younger in your DTs. You're younger now at the edge. You're getting younger in the secondary. You're get this. You're completely young on the left side of your O-line. And if your right guard pans out, 3 of your 5 starters could play for next 10 years in your offensive line. They're getting younger on the fly. They're getting younger on the fly. See, I don't want to run the 34. I don't want to run the 34. I don't think the special teams agreed. Special teams has to be addressed. I completely agree with that. Completely agree. Oldest player, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's either Kelsey or Brandon Graham, right? It's either Kelsey or Graham. I don't think he can run the 34. Sills, who did you pick as the slot corner? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's see. My secondary is shaping. My secondary, I went Bradbury, Terrell Edmonds, Sidney Brown, and Darius Slay. That's my secondary. I think this kid Brown's going to start. I think Brown's going to start. And if it were me, I would try to do everything to get that Nolan Smith guy on the field and put him in positions to win. Dude, putting that Nicholas Morrow guy in the field, he's a guy. You hear what John said too, McMullen? That guy didn't get 1 guaranteed cent. I don't know if he makes the team. Sills running a 4-4. I totally love that. Why not? Like this, look. Somebody said something to me about putting a chalkboard. That's a great call. Let's do this here. Here, let me show you how I want my defense to look. And let me show you how I want the defense to look. So we're going to do like a chalkboard. That's the O-line. And I'm going to put on the other side now how I want my defense and how I think the Eagles should put their players on the field. Is that fair? Let's use kind of a chalkboard here. Okay. Jalen Carter, Fletcher Cox, Josh Sweat, BG, Nolan Smith. Jakobi. Hassan. This is how I want it to look. There's your visual. See this here? And the guy who is the worst tackler, put him on the short side of the field so that you can use the sideline to defend. Okay? Because he's not your better cover guy or tackle guy. This guy over here runs a 4.39. I want to take complete advantage. And why I'm comfortable with Nakobe Dean in the middle here is why. You have these two dudes. And by the way, if you want to slide him into a one technique, okay, put him into one. Right there, you could slide this guy. Then you slide it to strength. Slide him to a 3. Here, I'll show you what a 3 and a 1 is. 3. 1 technique. 2 technique, 0 technique. That's a 3 on the outside shade of the guard. 2 technique is head up. 0 technique is head up over here over the center. And you could put a 1 technique right here. Same on the other side. But what you do is you rotate and slide. So if you have a 1 technique over here, Jalen Carter is going to be in a 3 technique. And you slide your defensive tackles to strength or to formation. Say they run a strong set or a brown set or a red set. This guy right here has to dictate this because he's setting the fronts. The middle linebacker is your quarterback on this side of the ball. So what he does is when that formation comes out, he's got to look at formation down a distance, hash mark, where you are, and he's going to set the front and the strength of the front. If this is the wide side over here, this will be the 3 technique traditionally. And this guy over here will slide to a 1 technique or a shade or a tilt on the center, depending on what formation and techniques they want to run, depending on what kind of team they're playing. Okay? This guy right here is like your center quarterback. He sets the front. He sets the technique. He also does this. If there's a tight end over here on this side, he could call a stunt. And he could call a twist over here between Nolan Smith going inside. Say Nolan Smith, say they run a twist technique. Nolan Smith will go inside. BG will set the perimeter. Always know this. When you're running games out here, someone always has to have the edge. When you're bringing this guy, say, inside here, BG comes outside. Here, let me go this way. Or Smith goes out. Smith goes outside, and BG does an inside rush. All of this is communication. That's why everyone is looking at Nakobe now playing the middle linebacker here. He's got a lot of responsibilities for not playing. The key to this whole thing is these two guys out here, Josh Sweat and Brandon Graham. Got to set the edges. And you see, to me, with Reddick in the short side, this is just me talking here. I'm not saying they'll run it, but this is me talking here. Okay? Reddick's not a good tackler. Reddick's not a good cover guy. Put your more athletic guy who's over here on the white side of the field. Now, it's a lot of responsibility for a young player. This is how the secondary will look. Okay, let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Boom, 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 boom. This is Slay. This is Edmonds. This is Brown. And this is Bradbury. That's how your defense is going to look. Okay, here's your secondary here. Slay, Edmonds, Brown, and Bradbury. Okay, Reddick over here. Dean in the middle. Nolan Smith here. Brandon Graham setting the edges. JC here. Fletcher Cox here. And Josh Sweat here. That's how your defense will look. Now, remember something. This kid's lighting the britches here. But your two dudes in front of you can't get knocked off the ball. So, if you feel like you're getting knocked off the ball, what do? You take one of your backers out and you slide your backers. One guy over the guard, one guy over here, and you slide Dean over here, and you drop Jordan Davis on the nose. If you're getting killed in this front, you take one of your pass rushers out because you got to stop the run. Okay? You take one of your pass rushers out. You slide Dean here. You bring in Reddick, put him over the guard as well, and then you put Fletcher Cox here. Or Jordan Davis. Your talent is here, not here. This guy's talented as a rusher, but outside of pass rushing, inexperience, don't know yet. Nolan Smith. Up here is all your experience, all across the board. And you can hide Jalen Carter in here. Why? We got Fletcher Cox on one side, Brandon Graham on the other side, and you got Josh Sweat on the other side. The one thing that you're going to have in this defense that they did a really good job of last year, they set the edges. Okay? They set the edges. That's what your defense is going to look like right there. Slay, Edmonds, Brown, Bradbury. This is how I would play it. Reddick, Dean, Nolan Smith, Brandon Graham, Jalen Carter, Fletcher Cox, Josh Sweat. Make sense? Okay? And if you wanted to go nickel, you bring Avonte Maddox back here. I don't believe in Reed Blankenship. Sorry. I don't know. Okay, I don't know. Or Ringo, if Ringo's good enough. What you do is you slide Jalen Carter or Fletcher over the nose, and you take out this tackle, or you take out this tackle, you put Fletcher over the nose, and you drop another guy either in the linebacker position. You don't have the linebacker position. You put him back here in center field. Put him right there in the middle on 3rd and long. Okay? See, to me, you don't have enough personnel here yet. You don't have the personnel to add a linebacker. You have the personnel to add a secondary guy. Avonte Maddox, Reed Blankenship, Ringo, Brown, Avonte Maddox. You got more personnel back here to do that with. You don't have linebacker personnel to be playing with LBs on the field. You've got to be playing with these guys. Okay? Does this make sense? So you've got to look at what's in the best interest of the Philadelphia Eagles when you're talking about putting your best players on the field in the best position. How would you start the game? I would start the game with this, with the forefront. 31 out of a 43. 3 technique, 1 technique. And I would put Jalen Carter. And you know why Jalen Carter and Fletcher Cox have to start and not Jordan Davis? You can't put Jordan Davis in a 3 technique. And you have to slide your front to the hash mark or to the open end of the field. Sometimes a strong side, weak side. I don't want to be changing and interchanging every play my defensive tackle. That's the thing that's probably frustrated the Eagles a little bit, is that you can't put Jordan Davis in the 3 technique. And if you put Jordan Davis in the 3 technique, that means Jordan Davis has to line up on the shade of the guard over here on the white side of the field, and he's not a very good pass rusher. Carter is. You see, These two guys here in the middle, these two guys are more flexible. Both of them can play a 3 and a 1, and a 0 and a 2, and a shade 1, and a bear. See, these two guys here are more versatile than what Jordan Davis is. Jordan's a first and second down guy right now until he shows otherwise. Now, let's go here for it. Let Jordan Davis sets the table. He does not set the table. He's not versatile enough to play a 3-1, a 3 technique, or a 1 technique. What if all of a sudden you're on the right hash and that guy's got to be in a 3 technique? It's a waste. Arthur doesn't have any idea what he's talking about. 0 sets the table. He's not a 3 technique guy. He'll never be. These two guys can play 3 and 1. Okay? He's a 2-down DT right now until he shows. Now, here's one thing, though, that, again, Josh Sweat showed me last year. Josh Sweat showed me that he could become a 3-down D lineman. He developed into it. Maybe this kid does. Okay? But let's just say this. And I'm going to use the screen as the wide side. Say we have to go here, and this is the wide side, and here's the wide side of the field over here. Okay? Well, Jordan will turn to a 3. Fletcher will slide to a 1 technique inside here. And what you're trying to do is shoot the gaps. See, Jordan Davis can't play the 3 technique here. He's not good enough. He's not a 3 technique. He's a nose guard or a 1 technique or 2 technique at best. He can't slide to a 3. That's Bear tomorrow. Fletcher and Jalen Carter give you the flexibility in here to go to the wide side and strength of field. See, and what Brandon Graham does? Brandon slides out, wide 9, 7 technique, 5 technique. He slides out. This you have to understand. The NFL and playing defense is a game of angles. And what you're trying to do is get these players on angles. Okay? Here. Now, say the strength of the field is over here. Well, Fletcher goes to a 3. Jalen slides to a 1. And by the way, the linebackers slide. Secondary cheats a little. Okay? They'll cheat to the side of the strength of the field. Open end is strength. Or, depending on what Sean Desai is, it may go to formation. Because what will happen is a lot of teams, you see, on I think it's Wednesday, you get your playbook and you get your trend book. There's trends that what teams like to run out of. And I'll give you this. Here's the center, quarterback, this, tight end, slot, wideouts. Okay. What's the strength? What's the strength of this formation here? This is the center. That's your quarterback. That's your back, going 1 back set. That's your slot. That's your wideout. That's your other wideout. What's the strength of this team? What's the strength of this formation? You guys know? What's the strength of the formation? Nakobe Dean's got to know that. Determining factors will tell you what the formation is. Tight end could tell you what strength is, where you are in the hash, what side of the field you are, what open end. And also, the left side is the strength. This guy right here determines the strength because you're overloaded on this side. Now, if they drop the tight end on this side here, then it determines whether or not you're on the right or left hash. Okay? And your guy in the middle has to know all this. And so Dean, right now, it's so important that Nakobe knows. And isn't it weird that they haven't really introduced Sean Desai yet as your defensive coordinator? I don't know what that means. Okay? I don't know what that means. I don't know why they haven't. I think they haven't determined yet and how they're going to approach things. I agree with John McMullen. I think there's still I think John McMullen, I think he's right. They're probably going to run a variation of the same stuff that they ran last year. But again, you have that middle linebacker, man. He got what did John say? He got 30 snaps. Whew. Not only is he not able to play a lot of downs last year, which means he doesn't have a lot of game reps. And they're not big when it comes to exhibition football. I don't know where he's going to get his game reps from. And by the way, all these decisions have to be made within seconds. And what Jonathan Vilma told me was this. What you do as defense, and this is where Matt Patricia comes in. They're not going to line up in this defense right away. They're going to disguise it. They're going to all congregate right here in the middle. And then they're going to go to their positions. And then they're going to slide their fronts. This guy's got to know all this. A lot of pressure on that guy. Okay? A lot of pressure on him. Is it easy to identify strong side or of an offense? You have to know what trends. Here's what a trend is. Just so you know, Lipton, you have to know what trends are. What happens is they'll take the last 3 games of the opponent you're playing. Let's just say the Jets. That's not going to be fair because they'll take Rodgers' last 3 games because Nathaniel Hackett's going to be up there. And then they'll take a look at that's going to be a lot more homework because I hope they play the Jets later in the year so we get a better sense of what they're doing because you would have to watch Denver Broncos stuff and you would have to watch Packer stuff to prepare for the Jets game. And you would have to put a trend book together that way. Let's say Dallas because it's a common opponent. They'll take the last 3 games that Dallas has played. Then they'll take the last 2 games that you guys played and they'll take maybe some game film on teams that run RPOs. And what they'll do is they'll have a quality control guy break down first and second down, first and third, first and 10, second and 4, third and 9. And they'll start putting the top 25 plays together that a team likes to run. Remember, a team likes to run. And most teams today, because of these new gifted offensive coordinators, they have these boutique offenses. And what they'll do is they'll put these offenses together. So it's kind of hard sometimes depending on what kind of front you run. And so they'll do this. They'll go, okay, here's the last 3 games. Here's their top 25 favorite plays. They like to do this at a 2nd and 7. They like to do this on the plus 30. And that's why when Brady and Belichick were going over, Brady would be on one side of the tablet and Belichick would be on the other side. And Belichick would go, okay, 3rd and 7, nickel personnel. Brady would go slot, maybe a crossing route, maybe a wheel route here, depending on what the defense gives me, depending if the free safety sees it or not, depending on what side of the field, if we have strong or weak side strength. If I'm on the right hash, I want to go here. If I'm on the left hash, I want to go there. Okay? So to me, again, setting a strength, it depends on really what that team's trends have been the last 3 games and the times that you've played against them, what they like to do to you. That's why it's important to know when you play Washington or you play the Giants, you're not going to do anything that both teams don't know what you're going to do. That's why it's so impossible to beat those teams. You ever notice when you play or you watch Auburn versus Alabama or Miami back in the day versus Florida State or Florida, nobody was going to do anything we hadn't seen because we played each other every year. And we knew the players on the team and we knew the coaches because they all recruited us. We all played against them. Shit, sometimes we worked out together in the summertime. Everyone knew what was up. You're not going to fool anybody. That's why division opponents, that's why Washington beat the Eagles last year. They came up with a better game plan than they did in the first time around when they went up there. I mean, the common opponent one is always harder because you don't want to ever come out of your tendencies, especially if you're playing well. And that's what the Eagles did at the end of the year. One of the reasons why it looked a little chaotic, Hurts got hurt. Goddard got hurt. When Hurts and Goddard got hurt, that was a double-edged sword to them. And quite frankly, it really hurt them and their continuity. And that's kind of what went down that way towards the end of the year. And that's why it looked a little bit chaotic, especially when they got into the playoffs. So when you start losing pieces like that, it becomes an issue. All right. I'm going to take a timeout right now. I appreciate it. Please hit the like button. Keep it here on the National Football Show. The Power Hour is next.
Weather forecasting is a team game.
We rely on each other every day, updating the models and passing along new critical information.
We have a team of 5 experienced meteorologists and a specialized weather producer, Paul. Say hi, Paul.
Sometimes what I see in the model, Cecily could see something different.
That's when we come together as a team to make our most accurate prediction.
And all of this backed by more than 100 AccuWeather scientists. It's a team game.
And we have the best team in town.
Heading down the shore, have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wildwood days.
Score and save in southeastern PA and Delaware with Colony Pools this football season, and let the experts close your pool with a custom Merlin safety cover in green for the birds. And if you join our Winter Watch team, we'll give you another 20% off, and Colony Pools will handle it all. Keep your tiles on your pool, not in your pool. Fly with Colony right now, birds fans. Visit flywithcolony.com.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer 3 major services, the first one being basement waterproofing, the second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs, and then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Exils! You guys remember a football player by the name of Jamie Williams? Played tight end for the 49ers. You guys remember that guy's name? He wrote a script back in the day called, I think, Monday Night. If I'm not mistaken, I think it was called Monday Night. And he wrote he wrote this script, and he showed it to Oliver Stone. Oliver Stone's looking at it, and he's like, hey, this is pretty cool here. He goes, they didn't really like the title. Jamie wasn't a superstar ball player. He's a good player. I think he went to Nebraska. I knew him well when I worked in the Bay Area. And so he introduced, I think Ed DeBartolo helped him get an introduction to Oliver Stone. I think Oliver Stone had just come off making JFK. So he showed him the script, and he became a technical advisor on Any Given Sunday. And they filmed it down in South Florida. And so they got a bunch of Miami Hurricane guys, Florida State guy, whomever, to be seconds in the movie, people in the stands, people on the field. So Big Sil's by the way, Jamie was like a technical advisor and helped write the script, and he doesn't get credit for it. He didn't get any credit for it. But he helped, and they gave him a pretty good salary for it. So I think I'm in the rain scene. I did that. I think I was in the rain scene as an offensive guard. It's raining, man. But it wasn't raining. They were just pouring water on us, man. They did it at midnight. It was freezing cold too, man. They're just pounding us with water, man. And they're just dropping. It was like, and Jamie Foxx was so cool. He was pretty cool. Hey, man. Hey, he was great in that movie, man. What was his name? What was that guy? What was his quarterback name, man? Dude, he ain't the tallest guy in the planet, too. I'll tell you that. Okay? Willie Beeman, that's it. Dude, Lawrence Taylor frightened the shit out of him every time he came around him. We all started laughing. I mean, there was a bunch of us. I think Kevin Fagan was in it. Again, I don't know. I think we got like $1,800 a day to do it. I think I did 3 days. I think a couple other guys did a week. So it was pretty cool. I mean, it was like, I had done something for an EA Sports game too back in the day, but so Any Given Sunday, man. Big Sills is in there when the rain's coming down. I was gonna put that on my Twitter page, but I don't want to put any juju on Jamie right now. Great dude, man. And after the movie was completed, he had this giant party down at the Fountain Blue. And we all had a great time, man. Al Pacino was in that. Al Pacino was absolutely sensational. All those guys were really good dudes. Jim Brown. Yeah. I forgot all that shit, man. I can't remember the year that movie came out. We did that years ago, it seems. Jim Brown was in that thing. The guy from The Program, too, was in that movie. And he had some speaking roles. There were a couple guys that got some speaking roles in that. Yeah, man. That is a good movie, man. It was fun to be a part of something like that. Yeah, Latimer, the guy from The Program, was in that thing. Hey, the thing is crazy, man. Yeah, Big Sil's a guard in the thing. No credit, though. Then again, Jamie Williams, who put like the script together and was a technical advisor on it. He didn't get any. I think he got credit for some type of assistant on the screenplay, but he was a technical guy and he was telling how the guys line up, this and that. And Oliver Stone was cool. All those, I don't think there was a dick on the set. Well, maybe I shouldn't say that. All right. Hey, since the draft is concluded, we're in the power hour here. We're going to draft all starting 22 Philadelphia Eagles here in a second. You know what? Damon Wayans, I'm friends with one of the Wayans brothers. I posted sometimes on my on my Twitter page. He used to come into my studio all the time. And every time he was playing the comedy club, he'd walk in, whether it was in Los Angeles or down in San Diego, he'd come in and God, man, we had an absolute fun time. North Dallas 40, man. My friend John Matuzak played in that. Greasy. John Matuzak was a friend. God rest his soul. We talk about a crazy dude, man. Man, John Matuzak. He went to school at I think if I'm not mistaken, he went to school at the University of Tampa. Am I right? Yeah, with that? I think Matuzak went to the University of Tampa. I think he was the first player taken in the draft, too. And he got in all kinds of trouble. Then what he did, if I'm not mistaken, I think he signed a contract with the World Football League or the AFL. Maybe it was the World Football League. I think it was the World Football League and the NFL at the same time. And the Houston Oilers had a cow with it, and they traded him to the Raiders. Yeah, Matuzak was a really, I don't know what it is, but hey, what's really cool? On Twitter, Ted Hendricks says he's looking forward to seeing me this summer. I'm going to go down to Miami. We're going to be doing some stuff. I don't know. I'm going to this Hall of Fame golf outing in June for the Florida Sports Hall of Fame. And they got me as one of the celebrities there. And, of course, Big Sills doesn't leave the place unless it's, you know what I'm talking. So Ted Hendricks is coming up, and we're gonna hang around. I hope Ted's calmed down a little bit. Ted Hendricks, man, one of the really charismatic dudes. So you had Hendricks and Matuzak and Alzado all on the same defensive line. That's some night, dude. Hey, let's just say this. You ain't getting home. You ain't getting home before 4:30 in the morning. Hey, Yale, you ain't getting home. If you're going out with Matuzak, Ted Hendricks, and Lyle Alzado, you ain't getting home till past 4:30. You go out with them guys, man. God knows what could happen. Big Sills doesn't come out of his house for free. That's a fact. Oh, man. Oh, that's right. LL Cool J was in that movie. I forgot about that. He was the running back, man. That's right. He surely was. All right. I'm going to do something cool here. And we're going to have a little fun here in the final hour. They're older now. No, they're dead. Yeah. But Tuzak's gone, right? And Alzado's gone. Lau was a good dude, man. Unfortunately, he should be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Steroids were not illegal back then. And for him not to be in the Hall of Fame is a joke. Lyle Alzado should be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Okay? Over 100 sacks. Defensive Player of the Year. I mean, played on some really great defense. Orange Crush. Played on that Raider team. He should totally be in the Hall of Fame. Yeah. You know what Yale just said? Steroids killed him. Okay. Steroids killed him. Hey, Yale, I'm not going to get upset with you, but let me ask you this. How many players have been killed for the shitty helmets? Hey, Yale, I'm not mad at you, Yale, but how many players have put a bullet in their mouth or put a bullet in their chest because of the shitty helmets? You want to talk to me about steroids? Really? How many players do you think are affected because of those shitty helmets? Or the doctors giving you naproxen or Percocets and then telling you, hey, walk it off. Steroids killed them? I think that's just one of many things that killed them. Okay? You know, everybody wants to talk about kissing cheerleaders and cashing paychecks. See that thing on my chest there? NFL alum? Comes with a sacrifice and a price. Ask Barrett. There's a price for that. There's a price to pay. Hey, kissing cheerleaders and cashing paychecks. That's all the public sees. It's okay. Nobody's crying. Would you do it again? Absolutely. Would I want them to tell me the truth more? Absolutely. All right. I don't want to get on a soapbox on that because you know why? It goes nowhere. Okay? All good. Hey, 11 goes, shit, Sills, I just came here to have some fun here, man. I don't want to shed a tear or anything. All good, man. Here we go. I am going to draft personally your top, I put 23 on here. Philadelphia Eagles. Okay? I'm going to Florida for a drink with Sills and Hendricks. DJ, I'll buy you a few myself, friends. You ready? Now, I take into account age, productive, position, importance, talent. Here are my top 23 Philadelphia Eagles as Sills drafts them. We are going to do the Big Sills Eagles NFL draft. Number 23. Defensive tackle, Milton Williams. I actually like this kid. I think this kid, if you look at Pro Football Focused, they talked about him being one of the more improved players in the NFL last year. And actually, between him and Landon Dickerson and Jalen Hurts, those were your three most improved players on the football team. Hey, by the way, you see what's his name just said? He goes, poor Milton. So you think being 23 out of 57 guys or 53 guys is bad? And you're not a starter? And you're third team? I think that's pretty good, actually. Now, this is probably going to upset Tone. I know it's going to do D Gun. I got Brandon Graham at 22. Is he too low? Here's why. He's 36. Last year, I wouldn't draft him high because this is the last year. I mean, he's going to be 37 years old. I wouldn't draft him high right now. 10 years ago, I'd put him in my top 5. Okay, 34, maybe too low. 34. Okay, I got him at 22. Would you draft him higher? I'm not mad at BG. He's old as hell. If he's 22, shit, he's top 3. If he's 22, 23, 24, 25, shit, man, he's top 5. Absolutely. It's no disrespect. It's today. Okay? It's today. So no disrespect, please. He's had a great career, and he's getting a green jacket. I got Quez at 21. Probably disrespectful that Quez is ahead of Brandon. I probably should flip those. But I got Quez at 21. He is a starter as of today. At 20, I got Nakobe Dean. I'm drafting your top guys on your team. Yeah, you may have to flip that. I probably so. I probably should flip Graham and Quez because I don't care how old he is versus that dude. Maybe I should flip that. I got Nakobe Dean at 20. Okay? Hey, dude, can that dude massively go up the list? Absolutely. Got to see it, though. He played 30 snaps last year. 30 snaps. I got Cam Jurgens at 19. Remember, he's inside the top 21. Oh, it's top 22 players. These are starters. I got him at 19. We don't know. He didn't play it down last year, except for a couple plays. 18. I got Nicholas Morrow. I don't know. At least he's played in the NFL. think he was in Minnesota before Chicago. So he's got some experience. At 17, Terrell Edmonds. Okay? Again, I'm ranking your top 23 players on your roster right now. I got Terrell Edmonds at 17. At 16, I got Nolan Smith. Again, here's a guy that could jettison up this list quick, especially if he starts making impact. But today, May 3rd, right now, he doesn't even own a helmet. And I've got him 16th. I think that's pretty high. Number 15, I got Jalen Carter, another guy who could jettison up this list immediately. Doesn't have a helmet, barely has an NFL locker. Let's see what he does. Lack of experience. That's correct. 14, Jordan Davis. 14th best player on the football team right now out of the top 53 players. And wait a minute, top 90 players as of June 1. I don't know. 14? I think that's appropriate. It's almost where he was drafted. 12, DeAndre Smith, I think is your 12th best player on your football team. Running back. Number 11, James Bradbury, corner. You know why he's down at 11? Wait till you hear the players that are ahead of him. Dude, I think your cornerback duo is fantastic. But you got a ton of good players. And for James Bradbury to be 11 and Darius Slay 10, is that horrible? Especially when Reddick's 9? Are you gonna try to tell me Darius Slay and James Bradbury are better players than and had more impact than Hassan Reddick did a year ago? Okay, you can't. So I can't justify putting those corners in front of Reddick. Reddick almost single-handedly won the NFC Championship game for you. Right? 8, I got Fletcher Cox. You know, the more and more I look at Fletcher, man, the more and more I look at his career, I did not think he had the same career Dominican Sue did. But he did. I think Sue is right there for Hall of Fame. And when people are going to ask me 5 years after he retires, should Fletcher Cox's name be put on the list of considerations? I'm going to say yes. Because I'm going to dive deeper into it. He's got one less sack than Sue. I thought Sue had 10, 15 more sacks than him. I was like, holy shit, he's right there. Pro Bowls are right there. He's got a championship in one. Hey, by the way, do you know why I think his journey's better than Dominican Sue? Dominican Sue went ring chasing. See, this is why I think Michael Jordan is a better basketball player than LeBron. The journey has to matter, doesn't it? Don't you think the journey has to matter? Michael Jordan's journey to an NBA championship went through Boston, Detroit, to greatness. LeBron ran from Cleveland to Miami, ran from Miami back to Cleveland, and then ran to Los Angeles for a championship. Whose journey's more impressive whose journey's more impressive in the GOAT conversation? Jordan's or LeBron's? Jordan stayed in one place, started a chore, finished the job. Hurts goes, LeBron had a unique journey. Unique? I think he looked for the best opportunity he possibly could to win a championship. Jordan made it happen like Giannis did in Milwaukee. I think that matters more. Those guys never left, weren't chasing rings. Those guys were there and created something, built something, and won. I have more respect. And by the way, the Kawhi championship, he was sent there by Great Popovich. So that's not really on Kawhi. Kawhi's got to win one, in my opinion, in Los Angeles with the Clippers to solidify that. But to me, Jordan's journey's better. Okay? I put Kobe over LeBron. How many people think LeBron's a better basketball? If you had to win a 48-minute basketball game between LeBron James, let's take Jordan out of it. If you had to win an NBA game, Game 7, 48 minutes of basketball, who would you take, Mamba, or would you take LeBron? Shit, I thought LeBron was going to gag that game. Now, albeit 38 years old, his longevity has been insane great. But if you had to win in their primes, Kobe Bryant, 48 minutes in a Game 7, or LeBron, who are you taking? I haven't even mentioned Jordan. Not making excuses, but did you really trust ownership in Cleveland to prioritize winning? Jordan had great ownership and had a great general manager and built a team that Cleveland Cub put together around LeBron for 8 years. I would leave too. So before Jerry Reinsdorf put Jerry Krause in the place of general manager in Chicago, do you know Jordan spent 8 years of having his ass kicked? Those weren't great teams, Tone. Jordan spent like 8 years of his career getting his ass kicked by Boston and Detroit. He spent 8 years. There was nothing on that team. Who? Bill Cartwright? I mean, when he showed up there, it was a joke show. I mean, Jordan had nothing. And then Reinsdorf put Jerry Krause in the building, who was also a dick. But at the end of the day, one thing about Jerry Krause put Phil Jackson in a place of success, went out and got Tony Kukoc, found Scottie Pippen. Scottie Pippen was not at a major power. He found Scottie Pippen at Little Rock, Arkansas or something. Had Horace Grant. Okay? Then got Paxton as a perimeter shooter. Steve Kerr as a perimeter shooter. Look at the revolving door of centers. Luke Longley, Bill Cartwright. Had all them stiffs in there. And Krause put those pieces together. And I always remember something about the Bulls. Nobody beat the Bulls and took the Bulls out of a championship. Management beat the Bulls. They were never beaten on the court. Bad management. Egos. They've never been the same since that day. Since that last championship when Jordan was there in Utah, they've never been the same because egos got in the way. Jordan got his ass kicked the first part of his entire career. I mean, by the way, I'm not saying LeBron is better than MJ. Fair enough. Okay? But that's why, to me, when you talk about Jordan's journey is superior, I think. And would you have left? I know. The one thing that LeBron has done, and I'll give LeBron credit for this. Do you know what LeBron has done that has affected all sports across the gamut? He's made elite athletes mobile. And what I mean by mobile is this. LeBron was the first one to get his ass kicked by jackasses like me who have been doing sports talk where a guy said you start something, you finish something, you stay there forever, and whatever happens, you're in purgatory for your entire career, like Dominique Wilkins was in Atlanta. Right? Dominique Wilkins in Atlanta was a travesty. We all know that. Drexler got to a final, but Drexler never lived up to his potential being up in Portland also. Gary Payton got to a final when he was with the Sonics. But end of the day here, okay, that was those. LeBron was the first one taking my talents to Miami. Tom Brady, I'm taking my talents to Tampa. Aaron Rodgers, I'm taking my talents to New York with the Jets. Matthew Stafford, Bryce Harper. Right? Nolan Arenado. All those guys, Manny Machado. All these guys now are mobile. They go places now. Nobody gets in their shit about it. LeBron was actually like the first dude to make being mobile and having control of your own destiny and your own. See, again, I mean, it's a different conversation. It's different eras. That's why when people have the conversation about the greatest player of all time, situations are different. How can you compare LeBron to MJ when the environments were completely different and ownership had more control over you and ownership controlled your destiny more? Do you know the last 5 years? I don't know if you know this, Tone, but the last 5 years of Michael Jordan's career, he was on 1 year, $33 million contracts because they were trying to rip the thing apart. You know, Jordan back in the 90s was making $35 million a year. Try to put that out today. It's like $60 million. I mean, Michael Jordan didn't get paid until the last 5 years of his time in Chicago. Okay? You can't compare eras. Can you do this? Okay, so Jordan's got 6 NBA championships, right? Okay. Well, Russell's got 11. Was Russell any less of a dominant force during his time? He played against Wilt. He played against Willis Reed. Or how about Brady and Montana? Can you really tell me you really think Tom Brady's a better player than Joe Montana, who never threw any picks in Super Bowl play and never lost the Super Bowl? And beat Montana. Montana beat Elway and Marino, Hall of Fame quarterbacks, in those Super Bowls and killed them. You're going to really – I played against Joe. You're really going to – see, I don't say this because it sounds ridiculous. Guy's got 7. He almost doubles them. But to me, if I had a 60-minute football game and you're picking between Joe Montana and you're picking between Montana and Brady, I'm picking Montana. Because Montana, I saw him do shit with nothing and win a Super Bowl. Some go, well, he had Jerry Rice. No, not the first one he didn't. I've told you guys this. The first Super Bowl, Freddie Solomon was his number 1 wideout. Wendell Tyler was his running back, not Roger Craig. And his tight end was Burt Cooper. And he beat the Bengals in the Super Bowl in Detroit. I mean, this guy didn't have Gronk. He didn't have the great old lines that Brady had. Montana didn't play with a great old line. He played with a very good one. Harris Barton, Randy Cross. Not one of those guys are Hall of Famers either. Do you know there's only one guy in the huddle that Joe Montana played with that's a Hall of Famer that he won championships with? It's Rice. He didn't play with any other Hall of Fame player. Not one Hall of Fame player but Jerry Rice. Now, Rice is the greatest offensive weapon in the history of the NFL. JM crosses a borderline Hall of Famer, so is Roger Craig. Guy McIntyre is a great player. Great player. Roger Craig was a hell of a player. Hey, Super Bowl in Detroit sounds like torture. No, Jacksonville. That's torture. Dude, that Super Bowl in Jacksonville, I went to it. They put that thing on river boats. I was like this. Thank God I lived in Orlando at the time. Holy shit, what a shit show that thing was. Don't ever hold the Super Bowl in Jacksonville ever again. Worst thing the NFL ever did was put the Super Bowl in Jacksonville. All right, let me recap here. I'm drafting your top 23 Philadelphia Eagle guys. Milton Williams, 23. Quez at 22. Graham at 21. Jacoby at 20. Cam Jurgens, 19. Nicholas Morrow at 18. Terrell Edmonds at 17. Nolan Smith, 16. Jalen Carter at 15. Jordan Davis, 14. 13. Josh Sweat, 12. DeAndre Swift, excuse me. 11 is James Bradbury. 10 is Darius Slay. 9 is Hassan Reddick. 8 is Fletcher Cox. And here we go. 7, Devontae Smith. Coming into his own. I think he's the 7th best player on your team. Number 6, Landon Dickerson. Dude, I think when Zach Martin retires, he's your dude in the NFC. I think he'll be the best left guard in the NFL when Landon Dickerson takes over that spot from Zach Martin. Okay? I got a tie. I got Dickerson and Mulata at 6. I had him higher, but I'm going to put him at 6 with Dickerson. Jordan Mulata and Landon Dickerson are tied for 6th. Yeah. Wait a minute. Can't do it. I get 2 6th-round picks. I got to put I can't put Mulata ahead of Dallas Goedert. Do you put Mulata ahead of Dallas Goedert or ahead of Devontae Smith? Who would you put Mulata ahead of? Devontae Smith or Dallas Goedert? See, you guys got some great players. That was a tough one. I didn't know where to go with him. Yeah, man, he's a left tackle too, right? That's a great problem to have, Tone says. Absolutely. So, as you know, I got Dallas Goedert 5. I got Kelsey 4. Here's your top 3 players on your team. Give me your top 3 Eagles that you would draft in a row. 1, 2, 3. Who would be your 3 Eagles that you would draft? Who would be your 3 Eagles? And I'll tell you mine. Goddard over Smith? Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Joey goes, Hurts 1, Lane 2. Yale goes quarterback, D-line, O-line. Hurts, Brown, Lane. Lane, Brown. Hurts, Brown, Lane. Hurts, Carter. Ooh. Wow, you think that high of him already? I couldn't do it. Hurts, Lane, Kelsey. Ooh. That's his top 3. Tones. Lane, Brown, Hurts. What you got, Sills? Who did that one? Hurts to win. I think I'm with you. I got Jalen Hurts 3. A.J. Brown 2, and Lane the best player on the team. So my top 10 Eagles, Lane Johnson, A.J. Brown, Jalen Hurts, Kelsey 4, Goddard 5, Dickerson and Mulata. I could not figure out where to put them at 6. Devontae at 7, Fletcher at 8, Hassan at 9, Slay at 10. Would you put Mulata at 10 over Slay? So take Slay off the board and drop him down 1 and put Mulata there at 10 and go Mulata, Reddick, Fletcher Cox, Devontae, Lane, Landon, Dallas, Jason Kelsey, Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, and Lane. Probably, right? Even though I think the corners are really good ball players. Mulatto over Slay. That left tackle position. So you think, so Tone thinks the left tackle position is more important than CB1. Really? Aren't those premium positions? LT versus CB1 in a passing league that you're playing against Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers this year. I'm not saying he's wrong. I mean, I got to protect my quarterback at all costs. That's why, you know what always killed me about the Eagles? How come they never put Lane over there at the left tackle position? You know, you're usually your best tackle is your blindside guy, not your power guy on the right side. You know, most times, do you know the most time that tackles that play in the NFL that don't pan out at left tackle turn into right tackles or right guards? That's kind of what they used to do in the past. That's why Trent Williams makes more money than Lane does. I think Trent makes $26 million per. Something like that. I think he makes 26 per. I just always, why didn't they put him over there? They had Jason Peters over there for years. Lane is spectacular, but Peters was a different beast. I think he's a Hall of Fame guy, Jason Peters. All right, let me take a timeout. Please hit the like button. Keep it here on the National Football Show.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
For the big story on Action News,
search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Go passionately. Go fearlessly. Go confidently.
Go Birds!
Go confidently towards your goals with First Trust, Philly's hometown bank for nearly 90 years, and the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're focused on getting you over the goal line. So go with conviction. Go with trust.
Go Birds!
And go forward with us by your side. First Trust Bank, the official bank of Philadelphia Dreams. Oh, and go Birds.
All right, did you know I was the mommy slam dunk champion?
Really?
Yes, really don't sound so surprised.
Let's see it.
Oh, you're ready. All right, here we go. Let's hear the crowd. So go to right, I go to left, fake 'em out. Mama, go up, mama!
She did it.
Again? You can't avoid gravity, but United Healthcare can help you avoid financial surprises by helping you compare costs and doctor quality ratings. United Healthcare.
Uh-huh.
EAGLES. Eagles.
What about John McMullen and I getting into it a little bit? That's so good, man. God, I miss those days of broadcasting where nobody got their panties in a bind. People had difference of agreements. You're ping-pong shit back and forth. Dude, that's what it's about. We're talking sports here. Don't get butthurt over anything. Well, you didn't like my take? Oh my God. Dude, listen to some of these guys that are on the radio today. There's certain shows that are in Philadelphia right now. It's like a convention center. I mean, you have a show with like 88 voices on it with nobody saying anything. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, you got 88 guys, and then every time somebody says something that's not really like down their lane, oh, what do you mean? You're talking to me like I mean, like, dude, really? Yeah. That's why Big Sills floats alone and flies alone, man. Hey, you kidding me, man? If my ship goes down, Big Sills drove it down. I'm not having anybody sitting in a room with me taking me into the ocean. I'll take myself into the ocean, and at least I look at myself in the mirror and go, I drove myself into the lake. I'm not going to have some dude sitting over there running my wheel, running me into the lake. That ain't working. Yeah, I control my own destiny, and I'm a control freak. No way. You got 700 voices in the room. You know how easy it is to fire people? When you got 88 voices and you got 14 dudes in an afternoon show trying to talk over one another, it's white noise. You can't get anything out of it. It's not sports talk. It's just not. I mean, really, sometimes you have to compete. It's all good, man. You have to copyright. Calvin, I'm not talking about anybody. You're assuming that, Calvin. Calvin, you're assuming that. Holy cow. I know I got spies in here, so. Oh, by the way, listen. Speaking of that, so a radio guy on a call. Let me ask you this. Tell me if you think this is over the line. So a guy was talking about the Boston Bruins and the Bruins imploding. 65 wins, President's Cup. They won the whole. I get it. They get knocked out by the Panthers. And a guy makes a reference to the Hindenburg. What did the Hindenburg blow up? What was it, 32, 27, 1927? Is that too soon to goof on that? A Hindenburg-like implosion. And I was thinking, hey, the guy at least went out there on a ledge. So let me get this right. Is the Lincoln assassination, is that still off limits? See, Kennedy's off limits because it's happened in my lifetime. So that's off limits. Robert too, Martin Luther King, Edgar Mevers. That's kind of still off limits probably. But is the Battle of Troy, is the Battle of Troy, is that still off limits? Or is when Napoleon went down, is that still is that still too soon? So are we going to get mad because the Battle of Troy? I can't make a reference. Hey man, that thing was as bad as the Battle of Troy when those guys all got killed. Too soon? Waterloo 1814, probably too soon for a certain host. The Battle of Carthage. Thank you, Patton. Can you smell it? I could smell a battlefield anywhere. And you know why? Because I was there. You don't believe that, do you? I don't know what I believe. That's what I would have said. Hey, I would have looked at him and went like this. I don't know. I don't believe anything. I don't know what I believe. Patton talking to me. Cain and Abel. JoJo. Way too soon. That's right. Sills with Achilles inside the Trojan horse. Too soon. Too soon. The Battle of Babylon. Way too soon. Holy cow. No references, please. None. Because people lost their life in the Battle of Carthage and the Battle of Troy. The Trojan horse? Remember what you're saying. Sensitive things. Okay? You know how many people died in the Battle of Troy? No. Well, neither do I, but I'm sure it's a lot. Hey, Tone just brought up. See, now, Tone, this is a little sensitive to me. Okay? Pompeii. When Vesuvius blew up, how do you know some of my Paisan cousins weren't there? Too soon? Probably. For certain host. Too soon. There's sills like this. Here's sills, man. Pompeii because of Vesuvius. You know how many people died in 1608? Not really, but I'm sure it was a lot. Oh, man. Oh, man. Yo, comedy? Sarcasm, comedy. Hey, man, I get there's certain things, but that's a Hindenburg implosion. I get the reference. Edgy, sure. People died, okay. 100 years ago. Oh, man. Hey, listen. When that ark was the only thing left and everyone died, this thing was as bad as the big flood. Too soon? You can't do radio today. It's impossible. Because you got guys like that making those woke comments like that. That just kills the entire environment. The murder of the dinosaurs. Hey, man, Great Ape and, let me just tell you this. Godzilla, don't mess around, Cosmo, with Godzilla. Okay? Godzilla means a lot to me. Okay? He means a lot. Him and King Kong. The battle, King Kong and Godzilla. That means a lot to me. Can you get away with that? Never. You'd be in the principal's office in 2 minutes. Well, those references that you're making, and that's why PDs stink. PDs in radio. You know who PDs in radio are? They're the untalented on-air host who end up putting a show on that they host at night or in the daytime because they couldn't do it normally. Hard work and putting your time in on weekends and working your way up. Rob puts his ass out there on the line all the time and works his ass off. Good for him, man. And he's been pounding away at it. Good for him. And you know what? That's the way you do it. That's the way you continue to do it, man. Julius Caesar. Holy cow. Don't go there. Man, Caesar's best friend stabbed him in the back. How appropriate in today's life. Hey, man. I call everyone a Judas now. I like Rob, man. I think he does a great show. I do. I like him. Hey, man, yeah. No, Caesar, man. No. Always remember in broadcasting, everyone's a Judas. More like No. By the way, we're going to change it up tomorrow. Rick Barry, one of the 15 greatest NBA players. Let's see Rick Barry, Finals MVP, NBA championship, Hall of Famer, college and pro, one of the top scorers of all time. And he's going to talk about Joel Embiid. And he's going to talk about the NBA playoffs, which actually I think they've been really great. I actually like what the playoffs have done. John, they called them woke because they need to wake up to reality and accept facts. Are you kidding me? Most people today like to be lied to. You know that, John. That's today's society. They'd rather be lied to than spoken the truth to. You guys are killing it. I want to tell you guys are killing it. My guy Tone's killing it. Tone brought Pape up. I don't know, man. I got an ass with him on that one here, man. Because I know I got some relatives that are sitting there now going like this under the ashes still. And they're going to find, is that Sileo's great-grandfather sitting there because Vesuvius blew up? Tone, yeah. Hey, we're doing the Heisman one, Tone. We're doing the yeah. Well, hey, is that Sileo's great cousin? They're in like Pompeii doing the Heisman pose. No wonder John Heisman got that pose there, man. Guys, see you tomorrow. Have a great one. See you 3 to 6. Tone, great stuff as always. We love you very much. And we'll catch you on the flip side.